Welcome back to another episode of the Mana Daily Podcast. Today, I am joined with a local because he's crazy. No, as you guys know, I've been trying to get somebody to co-host so I could do a presentation because when I've tried to do it solo, Zoom lovingly just crashes on me. So my poor friend Dana, who you guys have probably heard me mention once in a while on the show, volunteered his services to be the victim for tonight's presentation. Dana, thank you for coming on to the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. As per usual, Dana's going to be acting as the student in the room. So if he has any questions or wants to push a little feedback and or counterpoints or additional things that people may not have heard of or be wary of, that is always what I usually like for a co-host to bring up. Somebody who's a little bit older like Dana sometimes will bring up something and I'll be raising my eyebrows as we're driving around having a conversation about some of this stuff. And he'll help send me down some rabbit holes, and I'll be bringing some of that up on the show. I actually just referred to you. I haven't posted that episode yesterday. I didn't mention you by name, but now they're not going to know if they watch this episode. I was mentioning how you were talking about the probability of trying to reach everybody for Christ, and that story, the analogy you were saying that even Christ couldn't reach everybody while he was here. And I was using that, and I was just like, "Yep." And while that seems like a megalithic task to try to undertake, it's something that I'm desperately trying to do with providing truth with topics like today. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Hope so. I mean, that's what we're trying to do is keep the conversation of Christ going, correct?
Yes, and keeping Christ always as the priority versus things in this world, which today's topic might ruffle a few feathers.
Oh no. Oh
Um,
no.
so
Not,
without any
nothing
further
like
ado,
nothing like he's done any of that.
right? It's like if you're basically ticking off all of the religious people, you must be doing something right. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
All right. So the topic, capitalism or Christ. And originally I semi kind of wanted to do this as a debate with an individual, but I was like, you know what? I guess I'll just do a presentation because I don't know if a debate would be in the right lane to go about this because I've often when I'm passionate about something, I could become a little bit abrasive. And I want to make sure that the message is being conveyed as opposed to getting hostile over our different worldviews. And again, I'm basing mine off of studying theory, compare contrasting, and experience, which I think a lot of other people, they only read maybe one or two theorists, only ones that give confirmation of what they want to hear. And all the others, they just automatically eject from the equation. So when you bring them up, they're like, I have never even heard that term before. So how am I supposed to be debating you? You're not my equal, and you never bothered to test your theory against somebody that's a little bit more sound or goes in the other direction without becoming an extreme, right?
Well, I guess I hope that I can, as I said before, I'm going to be a layman today, so I will ask you questions when appropriate, I hope.
That's all we can ask. That's all we can ask. Um, so what's your thoughts on statism? Are you aware of what it is and what exactly it entails?
I mean, statism so far, um, I can't say that I've looked into it too much or thought about it too much.
Well, basically, the definition here that we get from Merriam-Webster is that it's a political doctrine advocating for centralized government, control over social and economic affairs. It prioritizes state authority, central planning, and collective order over individual liberty and free market autonomy. Does that sound good or does that sound meh?
No, that I got that one.
I myself am not too keen on it. Why? Because we're giving government control. Govern means to guide or control, and ment means mind. So mind control over social and economic affairs, if we wanted to get a little bit more honed in. Over social? So the government now is having a say with what and how I treat someone else via the spirit. Like I should be treating them how Christ said, love my neighbor as myself. Whereas with this, it says, love your neighbor if it's legally okay by what the state says, right? Like a constitution. So, constitution and
Majority
Bible.
or the majority.
Right, right. And again, as you just said, a majority, it's like, all right, she's a witch. Let's go to the state official, have her, like, right? We went through the legal process, but we didn't really test the spirits, as it were. We went through the state and then we kind of had a monkey trial, and that was it. So, again, it prioritizes the state authority over a collective order and collective order over individual liberty. Now, this is kind of where I've been pushing people when I can and where I can that you shouldn't call somebody an idiot. You should call them a moron or an imbecile because idiotes or es, whatever, however it's pronounced, idiot with es, in the original Greek means someone that was a private person that didn't take part in the affairs of the city, politics. So, because I don't want to join your collective, I'm an idiot. Yes. Well, then you're the, all right, you don't want to join the majority, so you're the idiot. You're the fool for choosing just to take care of me and my own or myself. Yes. So, village idiot, someone who takes care of themselves while everybody goes to the, as parishioners.
Yeah.
So, that's just something I was noticing, and I chuckle. That's why I'm like, no, moron or imbecile. Imbecile means childlike, moron means moronist, right? You're, so then I had to ask myself if it wants control over both social and economic affairs, where does economy come from? Well, I had to be digging around and I found one of the deities mentioned was Mercury. Mercury was affiliated with this. And if you've been watching my other shows, listeners and or Dana, you would know that Mercury is an equivalent of Baal in the Bible, which means Lord, owner, or master. He is the god of financial gain, commerce, eloquence, messages, communication, including divination, travelers, boundaries, luck, trickery, and thieves. And I was like, boundaries? Like borders? Terrace, luck, like in gambling?
Mhm.
Trickery? People don't like lawyers because they're finagling words and terminologies to fit whoever they want to let get off, right? And financial gain is what you get out of all of this. And I was going, in order to gain finances, you need to take away from somebody else,
Exactly.
right? To be ruled by Mercury can mean that you are curious, communicative, or adaptable, but on the negative side of those that rule the planet. But anyways, and then I had to chuckle because Mercury is heavily affiliated with Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, Blu-ray Disc, Walmart, Microsoft, AT&T, to name a few. And the person who's supposed to be chief of Trump's Secretary of Staff has connections with both Mercury, well, that was under the Biden and Trump regime, right? And again, when we're
Yeah.
saying commerce, you know, when sometimes you're watching YouTube, oh, great, they have to play two ads before I could just watch the stupid video. Or I'm watching a trailer and they put an ad in the middle of a trailer. The trailer is the ad.
Right.
What kind of redundancy is this? So, commerce or commercial comes from that vein as well. It's greed, it's money. Thoughts thus far, if any? Hello? Did you freeze?
Yes, if any.
Okay.
I'm
I just wanted to check because I know I can
if
go
I was
kind of.
if I was still here.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we had lots of conversations. We've had lots of conversations. So as I said, I am I commerce again. Anytime that we have a licensing, you get a fishing license. It's commerce.
Hmm.
It's always commerce. It's it's the government pulling in more monies for this, that, or the other thing, and it's also a control. All right,
Yes.
again, controlling. I have to give my name, I have to give my stuff, I have to pay for this license. And again, this is for them to keep their checks and balances.
Well, yeah, and this goes into the Robin Hood analogy. Who says it's the king's deer?
Right.
Well, the king does. Well, what if I don't see him as the king? Or you're basically paying for permission for something that was already naturally free by God.
Exactly.
It's
And
again, like
again,
you said, it's a control mechanism. This is why I say currency is a shackle of the state.
right. And I mean, it's anything, I mean, why do I need to have a license for a car? Why? Well, it's to pay for the taxes on the road so that you can use the road. Well, why do I have to buy a road? I don't need to buy a road. So
Why
on
is
and
there
so
still
forth.
potholes? Or like you and
Yeah,
I, when we drive up into Massachusetts, why has there been road work up there since I was a knee high to a grasshopper, still going?
yeah.
It's
I get
never been fixed. 20 something years. Anyways,
well,
so
yeah.
are you familiar with the French phrase laissez faire?
Laissez-faire, yes.
Do you want to give like a layman's interpretation before I read the official here?
It's like see cum sum. It's oh well, it's
Que sera, sera.
okay. So, yeah. Oh well.
Right.
Eh,
It's an economic philosophy that was developed in the 18th century that opposes any government intervention within business. It's an economic concept that emerged um, in market affairs. This term originates from the French physiocratic economists who were early advocates of a free market. Currently, the closest to laissez-faire system in the market system of the USA and other Western countries in the world. So again, sometimes I'm reading books and I'm just over here going, huh. Like I use money to get by. If you're asking me about the whole big picture, I don't really care. And when I hear economists, whether they're arguing for Marxism or whether they're advocating for capitalism, I'm over here just going at the end of the day, let's pull the Gordian knot here. I don't care about going in that direction. I don't care about that direction. What I want at the end of the day, can I love my neighbor without the concept of money? What do you mean? So when we're saying black market or gray market, or you know what, we're going to do room and board as payment as opposed to like monetary exchange, this blows a lot of people's minds out, especially in our Western world, where they're like, well, why would I do that? Like, I got money, so I'll just pay them money and then they'll go away for the, go in your own little hovel for the night. I don't care. As long as you work for me for the day, I don't really care about your situation once you leave.
exactly. Yep.
And
Exactly. I want to pay you and have you go away.
right,
I don't want to have to, I mean, yeah.
well,
So,
again, this is where I think I've told you this before when I was in the industrial side of things. A lot of people are always say, "Oh, remember not to make your coworkers like family." And that always is like I hear what they're saying, and to an extent, I understand you do have to set boundaries, but it does feel a little bit like I'm intentionally either becoming competitive, secluded, or I'm becoming paranoid by setting up boundaries with every single person I am in contact with. And if I have to labor and work alongside them, why would I want to make, I don't know, like this cubicle mindset my mentality when I'm going in there?
well, that's it though. The thing is if there's dissension, that means that you guys can't get together and come up and say, "Hey, look, we're doing all this work, and we need more of it. We need more
Money.
um, money in order to do this job."
Yeah.
And if you're competing against your compatriot or your coworker, then of course, the management doesn't have to sit there and try to keep you in more work.
Right. Right.
So they want you to actually they want you to fight with the other person. That way, there's a little bit of dissension and stuff like this, so that it keeps them. again, I say that it's the same thing as what government does. They sit there and they'll turn around and they'll say, okay, well, we need $3 billion to build a ballroom. And, you know, oh, but look, Russia is attacking this place and is going over here. So instead of them sitting there concentrating on what's going on here in the United States, we're looking at other states or other countries that are taking us away.
Mhm. Well, again, it's the fearing the boogeyman. I'm not sure which actor it was, but he was saying in the 80s, like you need the Russian superpower, quote unquote, to get everybody paranoid so that they'll throw their money or they'll lose their autonomy, their social functioning, like we just read over here, their social and economic affairs, their daily lives.
Exactly. Exactly.
So as long as we have a boogeyman, like again, I can attest to that because we were having a business meeting and they were playing this whole thing and like how to be a good employee is don't talk negative about the company. And it was just like, what in the corporate propaganda are you playing right now? And the minute the video ended, the guy's like, "Is there any questions?" Most of the guys in the room are all immigrants. English is like their second or third language. I raised my hand and I'm like, "That's all well and good, but." A lot of us since C-19 came into play, we really just need a raise to get by because economically we're dealing with inflation. We're just wondering when you guys are going to be covering that topic. And immediately you saw him grimace and look at me like, you are exactly the kind of people we were talking about in the video.
But that's what I'm saying. And then again, like you were saying before, where they're not worried about these people's oh, I gave you your three shekels, you should be fine, go home, get your fish and eat, and that's that, see you tomorrow and I'll give you another 3 shekels. They don't care about that. I had other scenarios where I worked with a lot of a lot of people. And the thing was the institute that I worked for didn't care about the people, but I was sitting there going, but this is our job.
Mm,
Why aren't we you know and they wanted to turn around and say, okay, well, you only have 7 minutes per person to take care of whatever issue it is. And it's like, well, there's other things going on in this person's life.
right.
Well, yeah, and I was always chastised for that because I wanted to actually work with the person and be able to take care of the issue that needed to be taken care of.
Right.
And
Having
I was like,
empathy is a weakness to corporate affairs.
yes, exactly. It is.
You can't
It
have
is.
empathy in HR. It's the law, the letter of the law. And again, the law is determined off of what? Feminism today? Is it
Yeah.
based off of what C-19's politics is telling us? How we can and what we should say or what our rights are, quote unquote?
That's
It
it. I
shifts.
mean, don't get heated and don't get vulgar or you can get vulgar now, and then the thing is though is if you say one phrase that's hate speech,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, when did I step over that line? And it's like, I you can hear vulgarity all day. You pull up to a stoplight and the car next to you has it blaring out the radio,
No, of
and nobody's saying anything about that. And
course
again,
not.
I think it's, we're really really getting to the point where we're not thinking about the big guy upstairs.
And that is the whole meaning for this podcast because I just want people to consider, well, this is what the system we grew up under. I want you to pause and reflect because a lot of these terms, like, oh, I'm listening to you actually might know the guy's name. I'm drawing a complete blank. The black economist from the 1980s, capitalist.
I'm
Nah,
drawing a blank.
yeah, yeah. Do you know who I'm talking about though?
I I tend to think that I have his, I think it's the person I'm thinking of, but I can't remember his name.
I'm
I'm
drawing a
sorry.
blank. But yeah, stuff like that guy and stuff. And I'm sorry, it's the best I can think of at the moment. Um, but individuals such as he is just like, I don't know. Well, I see a lot of people posting these kind of quotes, arguing this, arguing that. But at the end of the day, when you start bringing like a social component of how the economy is affecting people's personalities, like the psychology aspect, the sociology elements, suddenly they toss that out and they're like, no, 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 we're focusing about the most profit gain margins here or losses. And I'm like, okay, but what about the people? Well, who cares about them? Because you're utilizing people to stimulate the economy, right? Whatever it is. Oh, we have record job losses. We have record job gains, right? That's how they argue some of this stuff. And it's at the end of the day, but do you really care about the people? No. So before we get into another rabbit trail, let me just finish with these couple slides. So Herbert Spencer, he was an individual from 1820 to 1903, was a prominent 19th century English philosopher and sociologist known for coining the phrase survival of the fittest. I always thought that was actually Darwin, but apparently it was this guy. He applied evolutionary theory to human societies, pioneering the philosophy of social Darwinism, which argued that competition drives societal progress. He advocated for laissez faire capitalism and minimal government interference. Now, if you're going off of somebody like Milton Friedman, who was the economic advisor for Ronald Reagan, he was over here saying, like, well, some libertarians, they would concede and saying, like, yeah, we do need a little bit of government, but that's what we call consequential libertarianism. And I'm like, and why are you having to give up a consequence? Because of an economic component. It's economic compulsion. You are forced to compromise in order to get in bed with the state. Whereas before it was like, well, if the state didn't like have money, right? I didn't have to use the state's definition of money and inflation and all this other stuff, then I wouldn't have to be in a relationship with you at all. So why don't I just get rid of the middleman? And that's when the state gets upset. And this is why people like the five families and the mafia and whatnot, they come under scrutiny because now you're competition. Right? So key contributions of his ideas, survival of the fittest, which he coined in his 1864 Principles of Biology, which he believed better described natural selection than Darwin's own phrasing, applying it in both biology and social evolution. Social Darwinism, he believed that human society, like organisms, evolve from simple to complex forms. He argued that competition allowed the strong to succeed, thus helping human societies to advance, making it a justification for inequality. His synthetic philosophy, Spencer aimed to apply evolutionary principles to all areas of knowledge, including sociology, psychology, and biology. What's your thoughts on that?
Your question is what do I think about what you just read,
Yeah.
correct?
Social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, making justifications for inequality.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. Right.
So economically speaking, let me sum that up a little bit. He's believing that with social Darwinism, right? It's like, oh, the dog eats dog. The alpha is always going to walk away at the end of the day because he just happens to
Right.
be the strongest. He can flex stronger, and he argued that competition allowed the strong to succeed, to pull ahead. Right? The man pulls himself up by his bootstraps, and as long as he's the last dog standing because he worked the hardest, he put in the most hours, that makes him better than everybody else. You add that with a elixir of trickle down economics, and this is where you get your classical boomer mentality when it comes to the economy. I don't understand why you can't see the world as I did, blah, 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 when it's over here like interest rates, inflation, right? Things were inherited to you by your parents, things were incredibly cheap. And now you're getting this delusional concept is like, well, because I work so hard to get everything that I own, It's you guys who are being lazy. You should stop buying a Starbucks or stop getting an
that
avocado toast or buying little luxury items. Do you
and
see
that's
where
what that's
this?
why and that's where we have so many of these millennials now that are why isn't it handed to me? Why isn't it given to me? Now, again, we turned around and you know, I remember my parents before, my dad had two jobs. He owned his own business plus a full-time job at
Mhm.
night. And then he had to get up and open his business and so on and so forth. And the thing is, there's a couple times I said, why do you work so hard? And he says, so you won't have to. So the thing was that, that was the perception when we came through.
Mm.
So mom and dad are working so that I don't have to. Now, did we get to the point in our lives where that actually happened and now our kids or grandkids are now to the point where, they always want to hand that handout. It I deserve it. I
Mhm.
deserve it. So I mean,
So, from what I'm hearing, you're actually on the opposite side of the fence, where you're actually semi-aligning with this. You do agree to an extent. You do have to work to own or earn your place within the world.
to the thing, my point is I mean, I worked for I believe that I worked for what I wanted and so on and so forth. I
Hmm.
mean, there were certain situations that happened in my life that caused me to not be able to.
Right.
But the thing is, do I think that people that work hard and get ahead, I think that's fantastic. I applaud them greatly for it. But then the thing is you have this other part of society that sits there and says, well, I've had, you know, three, four kids and never worked a day in my life. And the state and the government are what's paying for all, so I'm trying to think of what I am actually,
So
you
again, at
know,
least you're
I
bouncing off
mean,
a sounding board because let me read a little bit further on the next slide here. Social Darwinism. Spencer would argue that competition is letting the weak fail, right? So if you can't hold a job, then you're just, you're not fit for society. Allow for progressive development of society. And this perspective was often used to justify class distinctions and capital accumulation. And Spencer was initially highly regarded as a major intellectual force, but saw a sharp decline in his influence following his later focus on anti state, conservative political theories, and strict individualism. Now, where I'll pose this to you, you eventually get this as the ground basis is that you're a little bit below on the food chain of a caste system because of an economic standpoint. So they're dehumanized. So, like, what do you do for work? I do this. Oh, you only work at McDonald's? All right. So you've already automatically put them down as like, oh, you sweep stables. You're not, you're a gutter sitter. You don't like you don't really you clean toilets. We've already classified you. You're on the lower end of the economic income scale.
well,
Then you get
it's
somebody else
pretty,
that's like Ayn Rand, like Atlas Shrugged, that lady. She's over here pushing the other concept where I'm a magnet. The world evolves around me. Everything that I put out there and I accumulate, I rightfully deserve it. I'm entitled to it.
right. Well, and that's a lot of society today. I deserve all of it.
Well, right. And from
Uh,
what you
the
were starting your argument out from, you appreciated what your parents were doing, especially your dad, is that you understood the way the world is. In order to get by in the world, you need to get money. And considering you had a huge family, he was making that compromise and sacrifice in order to sustain the family. That didn't sound like personal material gain as the incentive.
that was to feed the family. And
Right.
again, the
So
thing
there's a
was
difference.
yeah, that then again, like I said, it wasn't because we did have such a large family, you know, you know, mom and dad worked and did what they could to support the family.
Right. But
But
again,
then the thing is
the distinction here, does that sound like someone that was trying to go out in the workforce to become competitive so that he's his own man? Or was he doing it as a more so, I need to sustain my tribe?
well, that's it right there.
Because there's
I
a big
need to sustain.
distinction there. Because where the other one would be saying, listen, I got my Mercedes because I worked hard for it. I got my scooter car because I worked hard for it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think you know who I'm hinting at. It's all mine. I'm entitled to it. As long as I have that money in my bank account, that's what sustains me. That's what makes my mark in this world. Whereas the other
Right.
one's saying, I really don't care if I lose it all tomorrow because long scheme things, like that's not how I see myself. I don't see you with $1 million in your bank account. And it's like, oh, I gotta get buddies with him. Why? Because he's got $1 billion on it.
Right. And that's how it was. The thing was, you know, I mean, obviously if the if the boiler went in the house, guess what? You know, dinners were a little thin. You know, I mean, it was like you said, you know, we had a large family, and he busted his butt to make sure that everybody had something in their stomach and a house and a roof over their head.
Right.
It wasn't fantastic, but the thing was it was theirs. You
Mm,
know, it was theirs. Nobody could fault them for it and everything else. And so I mean, as far as this goes, I mean, I don't know if I can actually speak to it because the thing is that's not how I was raised. The
right.
thing is yeah, if you had money and you wanted to get something and you wanted to, fine, do it. But then the thing is the turn off is, or the switch off is if you can't have everything.
Right.
Either you wanted the bike or you wanted to eat. Which one do you want?
You got to prioritize what you do have.
But you can't.
And
But you won't be able to eat on the bike.
you have your bike and what, pedaling food. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people, as like at the end of the day, I really don't care about caste or class distinction. I'm more so concerned about my daily bread. And again, this is what this whole argument's going to be, is that the economy, or basing your whole existence, like I have to make money in order to do stuff. But it's like, did your dad get to live his passions? Did your mom get to live her dreams? Or did they have to sacrifice all of it because of economic compulsion? I'm forced to do this system. And if I have kids and I want them just to be sustained, I have to sacrifice my dreams so that they can have a chance at theirs. And then the cycle continues. They want to do their
Yeah.
dreams. They have to.
Well, that exactly. That's the thing. Now the thing is so do you think do you think that a lot of society is that way?
Mm-hmm.
You think majority of society?
I would say 80 to 90%, in the very least in the Western. There was another book that I was reading, and I can't remember the name of the author. He's a sociologist. And he was saying that in America, if I remember if I get this correctly, people define their jobs based off of the wealth or the income bracket that they make. Whereas somebody over like in India or the Middle East, stuff like that, that job is a place of honor. Like I might be just this, but I am the best at what I do in this particular thing. Whereas
Well,
over here, it's like, well, I got that degree, so therefore I'm the best because I make the most money. It's like, okay, but did you go for the degree because you love this area and you're good at it? Or are you doing it because this is your passion? And I think a lot of people sacrifice their passion to do something that's more lucrative.
okay, true. I agree with that. They'll go with the more money.
Mm-hmm.
But then the thing is you turn around and you look and you find out that, hey, guess what? The guy that's working at the waste treatment dump is making more money than the guy teaching your children,
Right?
or the person that is actually coming to help you in the uh, the ambulance is getting less money than the guy picking up your garbage.
Or even those guys that are holding the road signs for construction.
Exactly. The job has to be done. It still needs to be done. But you want to know something? I mean, when it really comes down to it, I sometimes I think that we are upside down in some things. I mean,
You
do I
remind me
think
of a
that?
joke. Did I tell you the Brujo Thibodeau jokes?
I don't think so.
One of them was Brujo and Thibodeau. They're working at a underwear factory, like one of those Fruit of the Looms things. And they're basically, we're like, all right, we got to lay off a bunch of people. So we're going to have you come through, and the guy's going to write down what your job description is. And then we're going to give you a little stipend to, as a little settlement while we're laying off some people. And so Brujo goes through and he goes like, okay, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm one of those guys that makes sure that the machine is fully functioning and it's operating like, it's doing the thing that it's got to do, and make sure that, all the parts are connected. So, so you like a maintenance guy? He's like, yeah, something like that. It's like, all right, we're going to give you about, this much money. And so he walks off, and then his friend Thibodeau comes over, and he said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "I'm a diesel fitter." He's like, "Oh, a diesel fitter." He says, "Oh, that's really important. What do you say we give you about this much?" And he's like, "All right, that'll do." And his friend Brujo runs back up. He says, what are you doing? What are you doing?" He says, "He's a diesel fitter." He's like, "Yeah, but you're giving him way too much money." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "When I'm done doing my inspection and stuff like that, he looks at the lady's underwear, pulls them this way, pulls them that way, and said, 'Diesel fitter.'" Sorry. Uh, to bring a little levity. um. Anyways,
Say so much.
heard that at a guy's camp. Enough said. That was one of the teachers. Blame him. Um. So there was another guy, 19th century, Frederick Bechet. I'm probably butchering his last name. Apologies. His main critique of socialism, right, when you're just saying like the handouts and stuff like that, is that it constitutes legal plunder. He's famously coined that phrase. And he argued that socialism uses the coercive power of the state to violate individual rights of life, liberty, and property by taking from some to give to others. And Bechet viewed this as an immoral and destructive misuse of the law. And this is where he wrote his book, The Law, in 1850. Um, Socialism, under legal plunder, hides its nature under noble sounding terms like solidarity and fraternity, but ultimately relies on the state to force legalized redistribution, which is inherently unjust, state coercion versus individual liberty. Bechet argued that the law should only protect personhood and property. By attempting to engineer society, socialist policies rely on the state coercion, which destroys the personal initiative. Now, I'm hearing this and I'm thinking, so pre Marxism or pre crony capitalism, right? Oh, so Bush, he has friends that are in the oil field or, whatever, in the oil industry. And so he's making all these deals over there in the Middle East. And then that's going to go to, oil people, friends, cronies that he knows over in the Gulf of Texas, so on and so forth. And that's going to get all funneled around, right? So that's crony component of this. And then you have the other ones that are up here saying, well, if we have this tax program, then we make all the grocery stores free. Again, my key component with this, I'm against both those concepts because, again, what are you relying on? The state money and the citizens' money in order to get this to work, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, what if we just got rid of that? What do you mean?
Well, and I think this is where we went into that big conversation about bartering.
Yes.
We had gone into a big conversation about bartering, and the thing is I mean, it obviously it was more lucrative for it was more lucrative for it was more lucrative for the people that had talents, the weaver, the person that had the sheep and stuff. And now the thing is okay, yeah, sure. Hey, I have wool. I will give you some wool if you make me some clothes. So, but now the thing is how's it get to the other people? Well, obviously the farmer's going to get some of that because, hey, you make me clothes, I'll give you food, and so on and so forth. But there are other people that are sitting there shoveling the stuff, and how are they going to get their piece of that?
Right. Or it's like you have,
You
for
know,
instance, we're in Connecticut. It's tobacco country, right? And obviously, at the end of like July, early August, they need people to start picking all that tobacco because you only get maybe what, three, four people tops, maybe in the average person who owns a farm. And you can't pick all of those acres that fast, or it's going to start going bad. So, what do? Now is when you start saying, all right, I need additional assistance and I'm willing to compensate for that. And sometimes they will give these workers room and board and money for that. Now, ideally, it's like, well, why would I need the money to begin with? Because if I go to Walmart or I do a Walmart run, I need some provisions. So what if I offered you room and board? Well, now I don't need to buy food. So what are you going to need to buy? I guess like a blanket and, shaving cream and razors and, little other little things, necessities like toothbrush, so on and so forth. Okay. And then what? Maybe a luxury item here and there. Okay. So ultimately, that's what money is for, right? Is I need just basic necessities and maybe a lucrative little, it's a fun little item, a little hobby of mine. Somebody like me, I want sticky notes so I can, when I'm doing my writing and or reading, I can put a little note in there, right? Aside from that, what was the need? But that's where the barter and trade element comes into play. Is like, so ultimately, what do you need? Provisions. Okay, now let's negotiate. But whereas now the state comes in, they're like, all right, so if you're going to work for this person, you got to fill out a W-2, and then you got to. But why? Because, like you said before, now I got to track everything. So this is where now the state is sticking its nose in our affairs. An interaction between two individuals consenting, right? This is the only extent that I will yield to the capitalism thing is like, well, listen, we had a trade agreement, not necessarily monetary in exchange, and that is between them and I. You coming in here and trying to, tell us we had to fill this out, fill that out, and everything for the permission to do this, that's now interference. You're ruining the whole concept of just let them be.
that's like, well, right. I mean,
Okay,
the
I was
thing
just making sure you're
is that
tracking.
no, they need. Okay, well, you're working in our state. Okay, so you've got to pay us for working in our state.
Mm-hmm.
And and of course, now I go back to the question I think I asked you the other day. Okay, so none of these work. What do we do? How are we going to change everything? The system has been in place for how many years now? And
Probably
now
since
how do we
Babel.
get away from it?
Well, right, and I think this
So
is
so
where Christians are supposed to be thinking outside the box. This is where you would have the adaptability as the body of Christ is like, yes, while we're out and mingling in Caesar's world, that's how we'll tolerate Caesar, but behind closed doors, we do as we
okay.
see fit, as in the
Well, and
community.
that's okay. So that's it. That's what comes down to the question is okay. So we give things of Caesar to Caesar.
Right.
Okay. So now how do we take that out of our everyday living to glorify God? how are we going to, I understand that we need to be looking towards him, but we need to also be able to, for a better term, live in this world. I understand that we have a lot of problems that we're going through,
Right.
but now how is it that we're going to take and change this?
Well, again, that's kind of what the whole. Let me do my presentation, please. Uh,
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me.
no,
I
that's
I
a
want to
very
get to.
pertinent
Looking for
question,
the
but
app.
that's more of a final analysis of like, all right, that's all well and good. Now what? And that's kind of the thing. I keep telling people we have to put ourselves into the mentality of pre-Eden, post-apocalypse. If we're supposed to be ruling with God in the new world, a new kingdom in heaven and earth, what would be the ideals? What were the evils that we saw in this world? And while we were here, right, some people, they're Christian and they live under communism, extreme Marxism, right? It's like the original term was there, but then they weaponized it and they made it into socialism, like the Bashir is saying here, where the state is now redistributing, saying, okay, I'll take control, don't worry, and now I'll allocate this money over here, I'll allocate money to over here. It's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? I just want to take care of the community, enemy of the state. Well, no, 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 that's not what I said. No, you're not aligning with the state's narrative of how we're handling it. So now you're an enemy to the state. And that's where stateism comes into play. Whereas somebody else is saying, all right, you know what? This guy's in power for 4 years. That one's in power for 4 years. This one reigns for 40. The next one comes in. Most of the time, I'm still getting screwed as the average individual. Now, am I aware? Am I cognizant of this fact? Or am I going to keep subverting to like Stockholm syndrome, which I call status codependent Stockholm syndrome? Am I going to keep hitting my head against the wall and saying, you know what? I still love my government, even though I can't fix the problem, but I'm going to keep voting for them, right? And you keep hitting your head against the wall, as opposed to saying, I tolerate you. I do not like you. I do not love you. I do not support nor do I endorse you, but I tolerate your existence. Like that annoying son-in-law that keeps asking for the car keys when you know he's just going to crash it around and wrap it around a tree later on. You tolerate them. Does that make a little bit more sense?
It does,
Okay.
and I think that's what I think that's what we need to get to is so we're not trying to subvert all this stuff.
The
We're trying,
revolution.
we're trying to find out more how we can glorify God more and
Right.
have society think about Christ or God more than what they are right now. But the thing is the system has been set up so deeply and for so many years that the thing is like the regular donkey that has plowed the same field for 4 or 5 years, head down and just pulling the plow, not looking up to see Christ or not
Right.
looking up to see the end of the row or anything like this. They're just pulling the plow.
That is
And
the beast
now we're
system.
now we're trying, or what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to sit there and show the donkey that there is something at the end of that row
Right.
that you have to actually look up to.
Well, setting
Is
your mind
am
on
I
things
getting that?
above, not on things of this world, or set your
Exact,
treasures on things above. That is ultimately,
exact.
again, capitalism or Christ. At the end of the day, what I'm going to illustrate is that while we're over here painting this beautiful narrative of self accumulation and, satisfaction, of pulling yourself up and stuff like that, I'm going to illustrate, okay, now what? Because what I'm seeing a lot of evangelicals and denominationalists, and I say that because you can't really have the average conversation for somebody that's still stuck with their adjective of whatever denomination they're a part of, and saying, listen, I understand that you make good money. I understand you're a hard worker. I'm not arguing those ethics of your character. What I'm asking you is, at the end of the day, does that start corrupting and eroding your mind with how you view your neighbor? Well, what do you mean? Do you see them through an economic prism? Are you the person that's now thinking like the Levite and the religious man that walk on the other side of the road in the story of the Good Samaritan? Are you strolling on the other side, or are you saying, wow, somebody's in need of help, I can do something about this? Or are you thinking, I don't want to get my robes bloody? Ew. I don't want people to perceive individuals like that. And as you said, this has been in play for forever. And I'm going to be, like Mercury, it goes all the way back to Nimrod's son Tammuz, who I personally suspect, okay, Cain established cities. This is where we get polis from. This is where we get politics, affairs of the city. I just said this the other day, affair with the city, like a whore. You had an affair?
Mhm.
So now you're so tied down with the affair of the city, but now to exist with the city, or get a permit, get a license, pay a tax, pay it like right now all of a sudden, or again, a tariff, a boundary, bear it, right? Everything is now set up in such a way. So for me to just basically live my life, I have to pay for every aspect, whether it's a subscription fee, whether it's a licensing fee, whether it's right. Whereas before, everything was naturally free by God. So I'm personally presuming that Nimrod's son Tammuz, he translated the Emerald Tablets, right? And then he said, okay, the sun, gold, is going to represent my dad, Nimrod, in the city. The moon, Mons pubis, month, that's where we get the word from, monopoly, mono, one eye. Everyone's going to be looking to silver and gold in order to thrive within the city system that we have inherited, right? And constantly, when I was doing reading Jacques Sollal's The Meaning of the City, awesome book for people who want to buy a little bit more, he was describing that God often is cursing cities whenever he is describing them. And he often goes after the rich and the kings, or people who are oppressing the poor with their power or privilege. That is, again, I'm going to be showing some of those verses today, but I want to bring that to people's forefront because I think most people, they now think, okay, for instance, somebody like at the church, or you know where I'm talking about, we'd go to T-ville. The bus driver, he's driving a nice sports car, but he thinks he's doing good Christian service by picking up the poor kids in Thompsonville. So you're automatically thinking, all right, well, obviously I must be a good guy because I'm going over there and sacrificing my precious time where I could be driving my sports car to, drive a bus and pick up the poor and primitive kids in that town. As opposed to saying, wow, I truly love this. I really want to see every single one of these kids as part of the family of God. So now are you doing it out of a spiritual conviction or economic compulsion where you're over here thinking, well, I did good service. I hit the checkbox of being a good Christian member. What's your problem with me? These people please me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. You tracking with what I'm relaying in the analogy there, and try to keep it brief. I'd
No,
like to
and
continue.
and I am. That's the same guy that says, "Hey, I went to church today," but then he jumped in his car, lit his cigarette, went to get the beer to go and watch the football
Football
game.
game. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I really don't think that people, I mean, when things are down, it's the stupid car. It's
Mm-hmm.
everything's against me. It's this, that, or the other thing. But and I think recently myself, I have, my my relationship with Christ has definitely gotten better because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about my relationship with Christ, because I'm thinking about how I want to. It scares the living daylights out of me to leave this world and have this person sit there and say, "Egon, I didn't know you." And I think trying to do my best every day is what helps me make a better day and enjoy more of my family, my friends. And then it doesn't matter You know, it doesn't matter what they are. I mean, if somebody wants to have a conversation, fantastic. I'll have a conversation, you know. But
Right.
the thing is, but and sometimes I just think that people have. Okay, I went to church and listened to a couple verses that again, I'm having a little bit of a problem with the church due to the fact that I just think that, a pastor isn't just supposed to sit there and ramble on. I think that it's supposed to be, I think this is more of a church where I can ask questions about Christ.
Hmm.
I can, and if I have something and there's something that God brings to my mind, which is very empty. So when he gives me something, it's a very big thing.
Mm.
And like I said, I don't think that people are thinking about their relationship with Christ. And like
Well, again,
and
because they're
again,
interpreting
bring
it
it.
through the funnel of the state, or as I call them, political pundit soothsayers. It's like, well, Daily Wire and PragerU said this for conservative values. My conservative values are aligned with Jesus, so therefore I can't vote for the baby killer, but I can vote for the people that are going to take out all the Muslims over in a particular country. That again, that's how they filter it. And then there's no, well, wait a minute. Am I thinking of this through Christ's perception of the world, or am I thinking it through the conservative lens and narrative of the world? And again, Democrat, liberal, you fill in the blank of wherever you're at on that parameter currently, folks. Personally, I'm against it. It's like, don't go to the left, don't go to the right, unless you stumble into evil. At the end of the day, it's like, you know what? We got rid of all of that. Now what? Well, we're just going to focus on the human being here. Without all the adjectives, without all the extra hubble bubble, ethnicity, whatever. Who are they as an individual? Do we judge them by their actions? Because apparently, what does it say at Judgment Day? Every person is going to give an account of themselves to God.
That's right.
So now it's
That's
not going
right.
to be filtered through, well, my denomination said this, or my college said this, or my party fought for that. Okay, that's not tracking. We're talking about you, the individual. But no, get rid of all that. Well, I was just following orders. Oh, so you couldn't think for yourself. Again, like he was constantly condemning the Pharisees for it. A double curse upon you because you're the ones misleading. You had the potential as the teacher to actually get somebody to go, wait a minute. Life isn't just about what you tell me it is. It's about what I think it is. Yeah. Wow. So I don't have to just keep kissing somebody's butt in order to learn. I can actually start contributing something out there myself. Yeah. And you're probably going to be controversial because once you claim that identity and you actually have compassion for your fellow man, you're going to be despised. That's what Christ did.
Yeah. Well, and that's it.
This is
I
offensive?
mean, and again, bringing back what you brought up earlier in the show is that, like we said, here he is on the cross between two other, um, you know, people that had sinned, and only one of them joined him in heaven that day.
Right.
I ask God every day for the words or whatever I need to do in order to get them to open up that relationship.
Right.
But the thing is you want to know something. When it comes down to it, it's got to be that individual, as you
Right.
said.
And I think this is where a lot of people it's very hard when it comes down to the concept of pick up your own cross. Now they like putting the cross in their bio, but the actual understanding, like a cross being a Kaba cube, the world, pick up your entire world and put that on the altar.
Yeah.
Everything? Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
so you like the symbol, you don't like so much whatever you require from your spirit, because that is a huge sacrifice. All right, let me keep pressing here. The great
certainly.
fiction. Bessier famously stated that government is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everybody else. He argued that government cannot give to anyone what it has not first taken from someone else. And this is where Albert J. Nock, he said that the state's existence has always been through conquest and confiscation. And I was like, as a historian, he's not wrong when you sum it up in a very brief sentence. Yes. The confusion of state and society. Bessier argued that socialists mistake government for society itself. And this I would 100% concur, leading them to believe that if the state does not educate, fund, or manage something, it will not be done at all. This is where I'm over here like, okay, when people are saying that's not real communism, it's like, okay, maybe I can agree with you. You want to know why? Why? Because you trusted the state to be the distributor. Oh, yeah, you see the problem there? It's like you're going counterclockwise when you're trying to screw in the bolt. You lefty loosey, righty tighty, and you keep going lefty loosey, so the nut's never going to go in, right? Because you trust the state to be that person as opposed to, you know what, we're going to do homeschooling. We're going to go over to Aaron's house today. Why? Because Aaron, right? You come together as a community because you see a common problem or a common cause, and then you utilize that together. You don't need someone to go over there and be like, all right, give me everything you got. All right, now you get this much, you get that. And it's like, no, we don't, get out of here. It's more of potluck mentality. Everybody comes and brings their own little thing to the community, not we give everything to him and he's going to decide who gets what. Does that make more sense? So somebody's going to bring mac and cheese. Somebody
It
else is going to
does
bring some beans and chili.
because can you I mean, every potluck that I've been to, I've always gotten more than what I wanted.
Thank you. Do you see? And again, enough so everybody's satisfied, and you go back. And again, if you also incorporated natural fasting phases, people would be doing a lot better. And I'm reading again. I bought another book, The Gift by Marcel Mauss, and it was talking about potluck, and I was like, oh, duh, Native American thing. I didn't even know how it was spelt. My dumb ass was just thinking free food at a church picnic, you know. But when you look into the origins of these things, dude, you start going, oh, all right. I don't like where we're at now. I want to go back to the Troy of the Tribes, not Marxism. I want tribes. I want to go back to that. So last
And that
lesson.
was, but that was it. I
Yeah.
mean, back at the tribes, you turn around and you look at the tribes. If there was a widow or something like that, they were always taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
They were always taken care of. They had food, they had blankets, they had a teepee, they had other people to sit there and take care of them.
Right.
The elders were always taken care of. The kids were always taken care of. And the thing is it wasn't, well, okay, we're going to stress out the most, the one that doesn't even have anything.
Right.
No, if the tribe could do it, they all did it together. If
Right.
they starved, they starved. If they didn't, they all.
That's called mutual aid, which is exactly Kropotkin's critique to social Darwinism slash Darwinianism, where he was just basically saying, I don't think so much it's dog eat dog, because you look at a lot of these other, like, herds and whatnot, they function together as a family. Like geese, they fly together as a flock. You have certain things where it's actually better, where you work together as a team, as opposed to everybody's trying to be the own champ in their own idea. It's like, well, that's not really going to help, because if you have a baby elephant and you have like six mother elephants or whatever all around, and everybody's going to go after the tiger automatically, not just mom elephant, isn't there higher statistics that the smallest of the herd is now going to have a probability of survivability? If six elephants are going after the one lioness, yeah, you're going after the vulnerable, and you're just sticking up for the one that's over here going like, I just came out like a couple minutes ago. I'm not exactly what you call walking around and knowing how to run. Like, I barely got my legs together. Whereas the other ones are saying, don't worry, we got you until you're able to get to where you're at. Which, again, Luke 22:32, Christ was over here saying, I've prayed for you, Peter, that when you're ready to turn around and strengthen the brethren. There's a spiritual component to this too, because there's different tier levels to where you're at in the faith, right? It's not because, well, I've been saved for 20 years, but how often do you read your Bible? Oh. And then you got somebody else very avid about their Bible and stuff like that, and you could say that they're almost an elder comparatively in a spiritual component, but everybody's like, all right, well, you're too young. I know more than you. So, from an experience point, yes, but from an educational point, there might be a moment where you're like, okay, I may not be the smartest, but this is the part where I will concede that you have a little bit of a better intelligence here. That was another component that he brought up, saying, like, for instance, if you guys are lost at sea and someone happens to be the seaman in the group, a former sailor, we're going to allegate probably him to be the temporary captain, not the permanent boss. But obviously, if you have expertise in this field and we want to get back to a shoreline, we're going to entrust you of knowing how to run a ship and teaching us how to do it so we can all reach the main objective. As opposed to, okay, well, why would we listen to you? You know what? I'll just sit on the other end of the boat. You guys are good. Do what you want. I don't care.
That's right, and that's it. That's exactly it. I mean, I consider myself. I have, yeah, I already have a great group of people and I am definitely not as adult as they are, and these people are mostly younger than I am
Hmm.
in the faith. I'm talking about in the faith. I
Right.
am not. I am not an old Christian. I am a new Christian. So I believe that I have to grow. And like I said before, I try to work on my relationship with Christ every day. I fall
Hmm.
short. Believe me, I fall short. You know that. And I'm pretty sure that most everybody else knows that. But the thing is I really try to keep him in the forefront.
Right.
I really try to keep him in the forefront. If something comes up, it's if I can't handle it, it's going to him.
Well,
I
that
don't
goes
know how to sail.
into,
I don't know how to sail a boat. So
yeah,
I tell you right now, somebody else knows. Here you go, buddy. Here you go right ahead.
I'll do what you say. Well, right. And it's understanding you're not conceding your individuality. You're more so understanding, okay, you're the welder. I'm going to listen to you how to do the welding.
Right,
You're an expertise in this thing. I'm going to concede that you know more than me. Hence the whole respect of somebody with yourself. This would be my analogy for other people who are listening, like martial arts. You're a belt above me. You're another belt. You're a belt below me. But it's not about, oh yeah, look at me, I'm better. It's more of a, okay, now go teach the incoming student what you know. So you're better to refine the moves that you got down, and eventually you're going to evolve to the point of becoming a black belt. Like the very word sensei, I actually got this from a book that I found that Izzy left behind in the basement where we were at. um, that the word sensei basically translates before born, or someone who has gone before.
right.
And that is literally all it is. It's just saying, okay, I respect that you got to where you're at through practice, through consistency. I'm going to submit to your tutelage. There's no shame in that. And again, this is what builds a brotherhood or our trust, is because you're over here saying, okay, I respect the process. It's not about, credentials and whatever. It's more so I'm understanding that this is a process of evolving, and I'm going to appreciate every second that I get gleaning from it. All right, let me finish here, and then we'll go into another slide. I don't want to keep doing this for every like an hour a page. Um, Antagonistic human nature view. He believes socialism treats people as passive raw materials for planners to shape, rather than recognizing them as rational beings with innate rights. Venetia's work emphasized that the proper role of the law is to protect property, not to create or redistribute it. Now, this is where I'm also going to press back as we keep going on the concept of property. Ownership, or in the very least, if I went to your house and I took your chair or something like that, to an extent, yes, that is an extension of you, but is the chair really yours? Because sometimes, like if you're looking at a place like mine, I've gotten like 75, maybe 80% of everything that I own off of a foreclosure of a house. someone said, I don't need that anymore, you can take it. But is it ever really technically mine? Because when I die, I don't take it with me. And it's just currently being utilized by me at this current juncture. So, in a sense, yes, it's mine for the usage, but is it mine for forever? And again, I'm going to be explaining as we go on, because to an extent, yes, to another extent, yeah. So, the very etymology of the word market. Now, I just did an episode. I'm not sure. Did you see it? Merchants and Princes.
What was it?
Merchants and Princes. It's an episode I just posted like 4 or 5 days ago.
I think I started it.
Okay. Well, in there, and I have to reiterate it here because it is relevant to the conversation. I was breaking down the etymology for the very word market because everyone's talking about free market this, free market that. And the word market comes from the old French of marché. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Forgive me if it's a mispronunciation, which in turn comes from the Latin mercatus, which means to trade, buying, and selling. Now, again, when we're reading in Revelation, the mark of the beast, no man will be able to buy or sell unless he has the mark of the beast. An equivalent of Baal, which means Lord, owner, or master, aka Mercury, who established the concept of currency or is affiliated with him. And again, Hermes, the god of trade, was affiliated and equivalent of Mercury. So I think that's kind of relevant for us to kind of go, all right, so if the word market connects with buying and selling, and everybody goes to supermarkets these days, I think it would behoove us to try to look into a little bit more of the etymology because maybe this will have relevance for us to understand scripture, right? Because everything is confuddled ever since Babel, but most of the time with the occult, they were able to still communicate through symbols. So now it's getting back to, okay, now that we understand symbols, and now they started fixing the etymology, now it's for us to try to understand what that etymology journey was so we can better understand where our place is now. So the Latin word is derived from marcari, which means to trade, or merx, which means wares or merchandise. The root word is related to the concept of economic exchange. And again, either trade or market. And then we can skip over to here. In the Bible, merchants, markets, merchants, and princes are treated as practically the same in Isaiah 23:8. Now, guys, if you guys want to go and get actual verse breakdown, merchants and princes, that episode, go and watch it. I might pin it down below because I'm not doing that with Dana. We already broke that down. Which describes the wealthy trading city of Tyre by stating that her merchants are princes and her traders are the honored ones of the earth. This link shows how immense commercial wealth gave common traders elite social status. And now, again, I was chuckling because what do we drive around on with our cars?
Fires.
And you drive usually like a sedan, tire inside on. Who knows, man? I don't know. I'm not even gonna say that's an actual thing. Maybe I should just shut up, but I'm just kind of scratching my head sometimes going, So the context of Tyre was a great wealth. The city of Tyre sat on the sea and controlled huge trade routes and a high status because the merchants made so much money, they lived like kings and nobles. Shared pride, both political rulers and the rich business leaders shared the same pride in the downfall in biblical prophecy and other connections of economic power. Ancient rulers often relied on trade networks, and wealthy citizens could buy influence. Does that not kind of sound like politicians today, Dana?
Yeah, I
Lobbyists?
mean,
Insider
especially
traders?
especially the ones that have been there for 40 years.
Again, and this is why I call them political prostitutes because they care more about the affairs of their, the corporation's interest over the affairs of their constituents. Right? Whore of Babylon mentality. A trader, insider trading, trader. You're a trader. I kind of wonder. You're a trader. You're double dealing, doing something
Yeah.
underhanded because you know that's what I want, but you're making you're becoming manipulative with knowing that you have the wares, but now you're becoming manipulative with the situation to the people that are coming to you, and they're trusting you, right? So again, interdependence passages like Ezekiel 27 and 21, read the verses fore and aft, show tribal leaders and princes directly acting as active market merchants. Another episode, folks, you might want to watch. And again, I'm always trying to put these things so you can watch them and go, oh, I see what he's talking about. What Luther hath wrought. He went in bed with the princes of Germany, and a lot of them, with how he was orchestrating it so that Sunday would be the new Sabbath, or would be the Sabbath still, was because that was working perfectly for their economic system. But in order to still control the peasantry and still accept the statism, where the government's still going to control as opposed to the Vatican, now it's going to become vassal states, right? And again, some of this I will be recommending later on, but on the medieval origins of the modern state by Joseph R. Strayer. I'll be showing it again towards the end. The State and Its Origins by Peter Kropotkin. And a Mutual Aid, the last 4 to 5 chapters of that by Peter Kropotkin. For people who are just wanting to like go, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. Some synonyms for merchants and princes span basic trade roles and powerful rulers, while the combined phrase merchant princes refers to wealthy, influential business magnates. Synonyms for merchants: traders, dealers, car dealership, retailers, shopkeepers, wholesalers, vendors, entrepreneurs. So, have you heard these terms before?
Well, I would hope so.
If you live in
But
Western culture, it's like, duh, man, that's the stupid question to ask. And why have, like, again, if this is affiliated with merchants, and merchants and princes are constantly being condemned by God in the Bible for their abuse of the poor, wouldn't it behoove us to kind of go, oh, that's a synonym? Okay. So with that context in mind, and I'm trying to make a modern application, because like you said, how long has this system always been in play? Correct. So how many variations or equivalents have spun off of this and is still hurting people the same way it did back then, just in a modern comparison, right? So understanding etymology, understanding similarities, synonyms, right? Oh, is that what English class was for? Yeah. Very good to learn these things, yeah? Synonyms for princes, rulers, monarchs, sovereigns, lords, overlords, or dynasties. And the synonyms for princes, oh, sorry, that was a continuation. And then synonyms for merchant princes, combined terms, get a load of this one. Tycoons, magnates, moguls, barons, voodoo god of the dead, baron, captains of industry, industrialists, and financiers. Merchant princes. Now, when I say this verse to you, the light was no longer heard in thee, right? Of the groom and the bride, paraphrase. For thy great men of the earth were the merchants, and by their pharmakia were the nations deceived. Revelation 18:23. Merchants were mentioned. Myrrh is water. Chants means songs. By their water songs were the nations deceived. What did I say commercials were again? Affiliated with commerce, and commerce is affiliated with Mercury, and Mercury has connections to BlackRock.
okay,
The Holy See, like the Vatican.
I'm
Everything that you use with
not even gonna,
money,
I'm not even gonna start there.
like everything you use with money terminology, is affiliated with water and Mercury and trade, right? Commerce, currency, banks of a river, drowning in debt, head above water. You can go on and on and on, and then you're just going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. The great men of the earth were the merchants, and by their pharmakia, big pharma possibly, which has connections with Mercury. Like I said earlier with Pfizer, I don't know. I don't know, but it's just again understanding synonyms, and then when you're reading Bible verses and going, I don't understand all this old English stuff. What about some modern terms? I don't like what you're saying because now it's making me, second guess my whole existence. Don't blame me. I'm just quoting the Bible. What's your thoughts thus far, Mr. D?
What's that?
I said, what's your thoughts thus far, Mr. D? This is kind of putting you in a
Uh,
little bit of a
well,
whoa.
well, the thing is again, I mean, you've dug quite the hole, you know. But again, the thing is it's been involved in society for millennia.
Yes.
So now the thing is okay, I know about that, and I can see where the connection is, and I understand how you're using it to read the Bible a little bit more
Well,
or
right. And
more in
again,
depth.
you just said I dug a hole, but am I striking oil, or is this a little bit like we need a little bit more polishing before I can make a determinative factor? And again, this is where I don't want people to, I don't always agree with everything you said. Good. But as I keep going, are you going to research the authors and individuals I'm citing? Are you going to
Well,
start taking out the economic component of how you view the world and something you love? Take that out and go, when I take that out of the way, yeah, I don't want to hear that, but I hear what you're saying, and I may not like it, but now it's either going to be cognitive dissonance or a conviction.
I don't know. I think it's going to be cognitive dissonance. I really do.
With a lot of people who view my stuff, it is, but
I
to them
I
that
I,
seek
I
it shall
believe I
find.
believe it is because the thing is again, you know, uh, 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 you know, mom and the three kids have to still go down to the market.
Mm,
And the other thing is society has gotten to the point where you know I mean, you had town criers that push carts and everything else to get their wares to the people. Now the
right.
people go to the wares,
Mm,
and the thing is okay, so now with all the governmental things, that okay, I need the car to get there. Okay, well now I need a seat for the baby to go into the car to
right.
go to the store. So I need to be somebody that buys one of these cars or buys one of these seats in order to get to the market.
Well,
So
even
so
then, they were
I
talking
mean,
about how not Rockefeller, Ford, and a couple other the car industry individuals, they wanted to start promoting the concept of people driving around in their own vehicle, right? Driving around in their own little cubicles as opposed to public transportation, because that would actually be the more viable option. But if they make everybody buy their own car per individual, per household, that increases profits, right?
it
So you
does.
built this again, another thing, kick somebody out when they're 18. A lot of other families around the world, you're in the house until you get married. And then we'll either add
Well,
on to the house and or we will help build your next house, right? There's a system in
and that
place.
and that's again, that's the same thing. Okay, now you have your own family and you go out and think. I mean, we've discussed how many times that now the grandparents don't you know they're not as involved as they used to be before.
Right.
The grandmother used to teach the kids how to darn socks and how to take care of some, it's a throwaway society today,
What do you call it?
you know.
Preserving food. I'm forgetting the terminology. Canning. Is that
Yeah, canning
okay, yeah.
and
Um,
and and salt and salting and so on and so forth. I mean,
right,
so the thing is again, you're talking commerce.
right,
Because now everything's throwaway. Oh, well, my car's not working. Okay, I got to throw this one away and then go get another one.
right.
Before the cars were, I mean, even
Well, we're going to
today,
be touching on that. we're going to be touching on that exact topic because, again, I want people to truly think about the system they're living in and not just believing the main economics guy that's talking. Because at this point, I would have to argue that economists are nothing more than prophets for bail. Because that's what
I
you're arguing is we need money.
I, I believe that. I believe that. The thing is people making their own stuff nowadays is such a nuance that you look on YouTube and all these other things, you know, this one, oh, I made my own sweater, I made my own dress, I made whatever, and it's this big thing, and everybody's like, oh, that's so nice, and yeah, well, guess what? That's how society used to be before. I mean, they didn't go to the market and pick up a dress. They
Mm-hmm.
had to make it. You needed pants, you made pants. I mean, how
All right, all
it,
right. So laissez-faire economics versus social democracy, socialism, which is more the 1% Bernie Sanders mentality. Ownership is assets owned by private firms. Some could say that's good, some could say it's bad. It's up. Some industries are nationalized with social democracy. Equality, income determined by market forces, whereas democracy, redistribution of income. It's like both these sound kind of screwed up. So the income is determined by market forces, which I would rather replace market forces with monopolies. So, like, let's say the technocrats, everybody that was standing behind Trump during his inauguration, everything's going to be dictated by subscription fees, by whatever they see fit. Yeah, well, screw that. I don't want to do that. Oh, so you're a socialist? No, I want to opt out. You can't opt out. Okay, well, at a certain point you can because you can get rid of a TV if you wanted to. You can get rid of, you can start choosing where you want to start culling per person, per conviction. Prices are determined by supply and demand. The other one is government may regulate some goods. Efficiency market incentives encourage firms to cut costs, and government planning may result in inefficiency. So again, that'd be Marxism is like, well, oh, only so many people can get electricity. So many people can do this. Oh, we had to do a budget cut. Okay, so the submarine sunk because you couldn't, right? Taxes, limited government spending. That's I would have to argue that's not often the case that we see. If anything, it's limited taxes only on the rich. Like I was showing you, I think I showed you that clip. The gal that went into the Bash Bros fish shop or what I might be butchering it. What's it called?
Bellis or
No,
Bass
Bass
Pro
Pro.
Shop.
Yeah, Bass Pro Shop. Thank you. Sorry, I don't go there as frequently. But she was doing a tour going, so you guys may not know this, but this place gets a tax write-off because it is listed as an aquarium. She says, so all of this, and she like pans the store, gets a tax write-off because of this. And she turns around, there's this little aquarium for some fish. I was
Yep.
like, well, that's some BS. And again, this is where I'm like, I understand now the verb, or when people are saying tax the rich, in the very least, it's like, okay, so cronyism. Why is it all of us have to pay big things? But now because this person is like, okay, so if I have a pet turtle that's living in an aquarium next to my bed or something like that, how come I don't get a tax write off for, saving an endangered species or hosting an animal in my home? I don't get that because that's not how cronyism works. That can adjust the laws so that it fits, so people like that can make max corporate profits, right? Whereas it's like, okay, so the money you just saved, are you now going to give that to your employees? No, screw them, right? So I'm understanding the argument without having to concede. Okay, well, we need to get a social democrat in there to compensate. But no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, okay, I see how they're duping us. I don't like it. So you can hate both sides simultaneously because the other side was high progressive taxes and higher spending on public services. No, I'm not for that either. Um Go away, both you. So healthcare on laissez-faire side of things is it's left to the free market. And as we see what that does, it's incredibly expensive because you were telling me you had open heart surgery. it's freaking an arm and a leg. And unless you have an insurance or you're connected with some group that's going to negotiate for you, you're going to be paying for that for the rest of your life, which is ridiculous. The other one saying healthcare provided by government free at point of use. It's like, okay, so why do we need the government to provide it for free? If another government's able to do it and ours is insisting not to, there's something wrong here. Should it just be naturally free? Because it's a person that's losing a leg or having a medical issue. This is
Well,
your field, so I'll let you talk.
that's another thing. I tell you right now, the thing is that the amount of medical insurance and things that the medical in the United States is just astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
It's astronomical.
And it
You
shouldn't be.
know,
But again, when you're getting everything privatized in the market or free market, as they say, is it now can becomes privatized? It's like, okay, but now anybody can basically determine, you know what, that pill bottle used to cost 30, now it's going to be up to 45 something. Why? No reasons, just because I say that's what it's going to cost.
yep.
But I can't afford that. It was better economically because I know, like, I'm not at your phase yet, but my Social Security will only covers this, right? A lot of people are making this argument. It will only cover a certain stipend, and now you're telling me it's exceeding that. How am I supposed to get, a life-sustaining pill and or whatever if you're telling me you've now jacked up the price to a point where it's like I have to now go back into work when I'm supposed to be retired?
Yeah.
So again, I'm asking people, don't argue capitalism, communism. I'm saying that system just sounds incredibly flawed. Cool. We can agree on that because it's still hurting you and it's forcing you to go back to work as opposed to just enjoying your final years. Can we agree on that?
Yep. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I mean, like I said, you turn around, you look at Walmart or even Stop and Shop or any of all these grocery stores that have, you have 80-year-old ladies and gentlemen that are uh,
Yeah.
busting their butt, getting up and doing 8 hours and standing there and you know just to make it,
Mm.
because the prices have become astronomical. I mean, you turn around and you look and 88 cents for an ear of corn.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to, back in the 70s, you could get six for a buck or whatever. It was
Seriously?
it's it's ridiculous. Look at candy. Look at candy.
Bruh.
You get a 5-cent candy bar. Now it's almost a dollar,
Yeah, two
or it is a
dollars.
dollar.
Yeah, it's like a dollar
It,
5 cents for tax. Yeah. It's
it,
not even real
it,
chocolate now for a lot of them.
it it's ridiculous. I mean, the amount of processing that this stuff has gone through, like you said, it's not even real stuff anymore. I mean, you know,
Then you
what
got to
is
pay
it?
more for organic and stuff. So again, that's the argument I'm making. I'm not making an advocacy for social democracy because I understand people's sentiments, right? I truly do. And it's like, okay, so what's the problem on both sides? Economy, money, commerce. You need it again in order to get by. It's like, okay, so both sound screwed up. And as a Christian, it's not to go, okay, so I'm going to choose this one because that's the lesser of two evils because it's the same mentality with economics as it is with politics because that's what statism is, right? Social and economic affairs. So it's going, okay, both systems, I can concede it. Both systems really screw people up. I'm not for either one. Good. Now you're at where I'm at. I just want to say, just stop and reflect because you can honestly say, yeah, I know that problem, or I know somebody that has that problem, and I actually was what you were talking about, and now I'm like, I see the problem. I see the errors of my thinking. Cool. That's it. No shame in saying that. So again, last two. Problems, inequality and market failure, monopoly, whereas in the social democracy, inefficiency of state industry and less incentives. And finally, advantages, but laissez-faire, it's dynamic economy, incentives for innovation and economic growth. So in a way, yes, but half of those innovations, I made a tire that would last for 20 years. Oh, we can't have that. We need it for to be two, maybe three tops. Why? So people keep coming back and buying a freaking more. Oh, sorry. And half the time the CIA offs somebody that's like, I made a car that runs on salt water. So innovation and half of the stuff when you're putting it into the patent system, right? It's a scheme. This other guy was breaking it down. I can't remember his name, but he's the one that just invented cars to run now on plastic, recycled plastic. He was over
Oh,
here talking.
really?
Yeah, he's like, I didn't want to do the patent thing and he was breaking it down. So somebody go look up guy who invented car that runs on plastic on Instagram or something like that, and then look up his video. It's probably within the last 2 months he posted it. But yeah, and I was over here going, okay, so it encourages innovation, but then what happens? The government usually will step in, right? You need to get a license, need to get a permit, need to get a patent, and that innovation is now regulated over here. Going, okay, how can we optimize the maximum amount of profits off of said new product that now exists? What do you mean? We want to make money off of this, right? It's a new invention. Everybody in the world wants to use it. So how can we monopolize it? Yeah. Well, what if I just want to give it out for free? Yeah, get rid of him. What are we gonna do? Find an Einstein or some Edison. Sorry, find another Edison. Get an Edison. You follow? So it's like encourages innovation, not so much because I have the people who are like, yeah, I generally want to help society. They end up getting screwed up, or knocked off. And the other one, promotion of equality in attempt to overcome this market failure. It's like, okay, so if the market isn't fixing the problem, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to now utilize the real core issue. We need to make sure everybody has an equal opportunity, that if they're going to enter this, we get rid of all the cronyism and now everybody gets everything for free, as distributed and determined by who? The government. Okay, so you're still saying I need to rely on big daddy government in order for my needs. That doesn't
Well,
sound good either.
hey, you can wait in line for potatoes just like everybody else.
Right, right. And so it's like I can't. And then people are wondering why I'm pro the anti-heroes or the Han Solos. Yeah, that's the system. That's the empire. Screw all them. I'm just gonna care about me at the end of the day. Do you follow where I'm going with this? This is where I like Boyd Crowder on the Justified show as well. I was just like, guys, at a certain point, I'm looking at the system. And it's like the guy's just trying to do his own thing. If the cop wasn't poking him like a freaking hornet's nest all the time, they do their own thing. I don't agree with all the times of what they're doing, but that community knows the risks of what they're running in with those circles. So let them be. Yeah, but they're doing stuff that's illegal. As determined by who? The state. Okay.
Well, and then the thing is if you do turn around and you do that, then you have these lovely people. We call them Karens and Kens nowadays
Yes.
that
Yes.
want to make a law against whatever it is that they don't like. And every time that you see one of these YouTube things, oh, you can't do that. And they get so mad
Mm-hmm.
because this person is doing something that's totally legal, is totally within the bounds of their freedom to do and stuff.
Right.
And these people just go off kilter.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so do we not need some kind of,
Checks and balances.
yes, so we need some kind of thing because I mean, again, you turn around and you get the town that, okay, this guy did this, let's lynch him. Okay, you know, and so where do we go? I mean, the thing is we don't live in a land that has, we can't sit there and say, well, it's in the Bible or whatever. And everybody has their idea, and we have freedoms in here. I know that most of them are being encroached or crushed or tried to be as much as possible. But
Well,
the
again,
thing is
freedom's as
what,
determined by the state, and the state is already corrupt. So again, it's like, okay, so Daddy said I could do this, but it's like more so the Bill of Rights was a concession by the founding fathers. That was not their ideal. And now every time somebody brings that up, they're over here going, Why are you going to make this difficult for me, the officer? What do you mean? I'm just trying to enforce the law. Yeah, as determined by the corporate class, right? Not by the citizens. You're not treating me fairly in this situation. Yeah, but I'm upholding the law. Right? So this is now where the whole argument is like, okay, at the end of the day, were you violating this particular Bill of Rights, blah blah blah, right? Or are they going to send a I don't know, a militia, so what do you call it, National Guard to quash dissent in a protest? So now you're telling me I don't even have the right to say, oh, it's like, oh no, now you're a violent protest for holding up pitchforks and saying like you guys are hurting us. Where where do we draw the line? And you actually listen to what the people are just saying. Listen, I have a grievance, and I think the system is rigged, and I would just like somebody to hear me. And instead of settling that, you shoot them with grape shot or tasers or bayonets and clubs until they basically capitulate. And it's like, okay, man, look, the state did the right thing at the end of the day. How often have we heard that in history with Waco, Texas, and so on and so forth?
Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. You're following the direction in which I'm implying here. It's like it's always been the same thing. Leave me and my alone. No. Okay. Don't blame me when
Uh,
I
that,
defend
that,
myself.
that, that's it, though. I mean, we've gotten to that point where I don't know the answer. I obviously do not know the answer. I am just a layman trying to get through the whole thing myself.
And that's all I'm asking. That the most at the end of the day, like we hear all this stuff. Yes, there's this group, there's that group. But the thing is, I want people to start being okay. I know that group exists. I know this group a date. So what at the end of the day do I think about it on a humane perspective, as an empathetic perspective, from a sociology perspective? Because ultimately, I want my humanitarian side to be at the forefront, not my own personal gains and whatnot. And this is often something that will rub people away because you start saying, well, is this, oh, equality? Are you a communist? Well, to the extent that I would like for them to have bread if it's a starving child, for crying out loud, and their mom's an addict, I would like to at least see that they get to a soup kitchen and, oh, so you want to have social handout welfare programs? Is that what you want to do, you little do gooder? Well, no, the ecclesia used to do that without the state necessity, right? And, but, oh, so you're one of those, right? So at a certain point, it's like, no, that was the normal early ecclesia's conviction, I guess you could say, to set up those sort of things, to take care of the widows and orphans and the veterans that are now not being cared about. Now, you got people like in Washington, D.C., where they were rounding up veterans and locking them up for being homeless. Now, allegedly, I served my country. Okay. So, in turn, if you served a master, wouldn't it behoove said master to provide a program and or some means for them to be able to sustain their said service rendered? No. Okay. So now they're problematic because why? They don't have a job, but they already served. They were under a lot of pressure. Shouldn't they be a little, as you said before, because they're doing a little bit more, not saying pay them more, but shouldn't we give them a little bit more of like, okay, if they were protecting the tribe, if we want to go ancient thinking, shouldn't we give them a little something because they were putting their skin in the game? They potentially could have lost their lives.
Right.
You're overthinking it. Okay, all right. Sorry. Oh, you're a democratic do-gooder. No, no. I was talking about left or right. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be the humane thing to do? Now suddenly people don't want to talk about that, but it's pray for our troops on Sunday. Right? It's like, okay, we have a church basement. Can we offer that to some of the veterans in the town? Not that I'm saying I'm pro patriotism. I'm just saying, can we offer that for people who are homeless?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
that's the whole thing. I mean,
we have to
again,
get registered.
we have other people that have mental issues that put them in four walls. They just become claustrophobic with that, and they need to be out, and so on and so forth. But the thing is, I mean, okay, let's try to help them, not make them,
Right.
help them, not make them. Okay, well, guess what? Here's an apartment. We're gonna put you in that apartment, and you're going to, and then they trash it, or it becomes a hoarder situation or whatever. And they're going, well, we tried to help you, and all you did was destroy it. Well, instead of trying to force your way onto this person, you should actually maybe, again, like I tell people all the time, animals are animals, and guess what? We're human, we're animals. We have certain things in our DNA that cause us to do certain things.
Right.
And sometimes it's off from the rest of the herd. But the thing is why not trying to fix that?
Well,
You
again,
know,
this is where somebody has argued before. Let's say you're like you have your nice little utopian city, town, whatever you want to call it, and somebody says, I'm just going to hoard all the water. Well, then what do you do? As well, you boycott them. You don't socialize with them. You don't sell them any butcher's meat. You don't sell them any quilts. You don't sell them, right? Well, doesn't this sound coercive? No, it's just choosing. Listen, we are a community here. Communitarian principles state that we're here all to make sure that we have um, the right to live. And if you're going to be an a-hole and hoard something all for yourself, then what's the point of sustaining you? So the same concept applies. If listen, I'm going to give you the benefit of a doubt. I'm going to give you enough to like a halfway house. We're going to give you enough, a little, a little nest egg, or like give you a chance to get some money, get on your feet, and become your own person. But if you're going to degrade the hospitality to such an extent where it's like, well, bro, if you're going to continue choosing to be a junkie, I can't help you. And the early church had this mentality as well. You should set them apart until they're truly ready to change, right? Actions speak louder than words. So again, this is the personal actions are going to determine, actions speak louder than words, whether that person is worth the investment. And it doesn't necessarily
well,
mean economically speaking, it means social. If we're going to extend this to you, we're going to give you every opportunity possible, then you better be showing some incentive back. If not, we're going to cut you loose and we'll leave you to your own destruction. We don't want that, and you're always welcome to come back, but we have to see that you're willing to change. And that
well,
often
that's
means you have to give up a personal concession. This is what covenantalism is. As I call it, covenantal mutualism with God. You can keep going down that destruction path of sin. Ultimately, you have free reign and will to rebel as much as you like, as far as you want to go.
right.
However, if you concede and you confess with your mouth that I am your Lord God, I have a couple of prerequisites that I am expecting of people that want to be coming into this household. If you want to be adopted, this is what I'm expecting from family members. Oh, yeah, it's a contract, it's a covenant. Do you want to sign that? Personal autonomy, personal accountability. You willing to go that far? You willing to take that leap of faith? And some people, again, I even say a lot of people who have allegedly became Christian, they never actually went all the way because they're still doing things, loving things in this world. And I do mean patriotism, serving their country without conviction. I'm not saying you can't have it post that fact, but there's a lot of people still voting. So you're still hanging out with the mistress every weekend. I didn't ask that of you. I said I want full loyalty to me. Oh, that's a problem? Listen, I'm going to sustain you. I'm even going to give you the benefit bonus of eternal life. Is that hard? Okay. Few there be that find it. Because a lot of people, they don't want to really give up that because that's a concession that I have to take personal accountability for my own autonomy and actions. And that terrifies most people because this is where they go back to what you're thinking is just a utopia. That's totally impossible. Everything is possible with God. All things are possible, right? With God, all things are possible. You just have to get rid of the obstacles and barriers and start seeing straight ahead. Okay, I see what all these things are distractions for me. At the end of the day, I want to love my neighbor as myself, and there is only one God. Now, how much am I willing to give up on behalf of saying I want that part to be my family? And a lot of people, like, they can't cross that threshold. That scares them.
no, no, they can't. They can't cross that threshold. Look at what we're going through. Look at what we're going through.
Yeah.
All this is the blinder right here.
Hmm.
The economy, all this stuff is the blinder.
Politics, economy. Yeah.
This world has made it so important for people to have money in order to live,
Right.
to do things, and everything else. And so the thing is they've put their head down like the donkey
Hmm.
to plow the field. And all they're doing is pulling that plow through that field all day long, every day. And the thing is how many of them actually pick up their head to look to the sky and actually sit there and say, thank you for the life that I've had or the life that I have, and give it to Christ
Well,
and try to
Dana,
do better.
if I may, you keep bringing up that mentality, though, the ox and the beast, and that's true because it is a beast system. What's that phrase that they say? Two things that are guaranteed in life. Say them for me, if you will. Death and taxes.
Health and taxes. It's only
Which
two that
again,
I
what
know.
did I just say? Statism is your
Yeah,
social and economic perspective of the world. So
that's right.
you're basically telling me the only thing I have to look forward to is the death from a release of things of this world and paying for an oppressive system in order to exist in said world.
Right,
That is the antithesis of the gospel, isn't it? Because you're supposed to have eternal life, heaven, something to look forward to, right? And
right.
a new perspective on this life where people are saying, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, I will give. Oh, that's what that means. Yes. So
That's right.
why are you so tied down like the rich man? And when he says, can you get rid of your riches if you want to follow me? Hey, 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 I can't get rid of my shekels. That's all I ever have in this world. Okay, so I know you're giving the face. That was not what you think it was. It was an analogy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Hmm.
I'll do Ebenezer
Hmm.
Scrooge next time.
Yeah.
The social market capitalism is an economic system designed to redistribute wealth and, through regulation, as you kind of somewhat suggested, protect the public and working people from exploitation. To an extent, unfortunately, because of human nature, yes. But at the same time, if one Christian is dealing with another Christian, you wouldn't have to be doing manipulative means, right? This is why, like Paul would frequently say, not getting money through filthy lucre's sake. Or really, Corinthians, I have to write to you that you have to go to a magistrate in order to determine affairs among you guys. There's not one wise among you to settle a dispute or de-escalate the problem. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So again, checks and balances. Are you setting that before God? And Ananias and Sapphira, when you said you got rid of all of your property and you said you gave it on behalf over to the ministry, do you realize you weren't just lying to the man of God that was currently collecting that to give to the poor? You were lying to God himself. Oh, that's what that story was about? Yeah. And both of them were struck dead. For what? Lying to God saying, I gave everything when you held a little bit back. It wasn't that you
Right.
held a
When you
little
have
bit back, it's the
that's
fact
right.
that you lied to God saying you gave everything.
Right.
So again, that, the fear of the Lord, the beginning of wisdom, that's how we should be thinking of this first as Christians in our community.
Exactly. And that's
Right.
it.
Now, again,
Exactly.
there's others that we interact with, the outside world. I understand what you're saying, and we understand what that check and balances is. So its goal is to build prosperous middle and working classes with buying power while providing a social safety net. Now, me, I'm kind of like, meh, because you have to create classes, and I call classes as another variation for caste system. Why do I have to be the working class? Aren't we all supposed to be working for the, like what Christ said? Every man should be, if you work, then you are deserving of food, of bread. Well, I'm working. Yeah, what are you doing, Tom Sawyer? I'm collecting what all you guys are doing. So you're having us paint the fence while you're collecting all of the toys that we give you to paint said fence that's supposed to be your punishment? Mm-hmm. Sorry, unalive him. All right. Philanthropic capitalism is an economic system designed to build the creative and scientific base in areas that would otherwise receive little funding. Privately owned enterprises compete in laissez-faire markets, right, where the strongest guy is always going to make it to the top, that run on profit motives, self-interest, and greed. But owners of capital make voluntary gifts. We bought you a pizza at the end of the year. You're very welcome. Please
That's
don't
right.
revolt. Do not form a union. Yeah. And this is where, again, what was the ultimate sin of Satan? Selfhood. I will ascend. I will ascend like the God Most High. It's all about you. It's all about what you make. Ascension, profit. Again, pyramid scheme. The very dollar, what's at the top? An eye, a mono eye, mono A, one eye, monopoly.
Monopoly.
Yeah, one eye, running around in a circle. It's very inverted, but that is ultimately what a lot of people do. And they were saying that they did a sociology experiment of people that were playing the game Monopoly, and they gave some other people like an extra 200, an extra 500, extra this and stuff like that. And of course, they're buying up everything. And you notice that they were getting a little bit more greedy. They were getting a little bit more taunty with their behavior towards those that were poorer on the board. And it was like, right? And they were kind of chuckling when somebody had to go into mortgage, which again, mortgage means a debt pledge. So you're laughing as somebody's getting into such a situation that whatever they own or is currently their happy place, my teepee, my wigwam, I finally pull away to that, and you want to take that out from under me. That's my only sense of refuge. This is all that I have. I want to take that too. And now we get to the point in Tennessee, and they want to make this federal law where it's now a felony to sleep outside if you're homeless. Well, screw you, dude. Like, so again, this is where I'm going. I don't think I like this system because it sounds just as equally bad as the other one. If you're not serving the community, maybe you should join the Russian front. Okay. Managed capitalism is a system in which mostly private enterprises compete in markets that are nominally free, but subject to comprehensive government control. The goal is to accumulate national wealth so the state can create economic and military power visa, visa, vice versa? I don't know. Foreign nations and corporations.
Vis-a-vis.
Vis-a-vis?
Vis-a-vis.
Vis-a-vis? Vis-a-vis.
Yeah. Vis-a-vis. Visa.
Vis-a-vis. Foreign nations
Visa.
and corporations.
Yeah.
Which again, that kind of just sounds like, okay, so the Pentagon can lose a couple $5 billion and we have no idea where it goes. Yeah. And shouldn't we be auditing them? No, we're going to audit you. But I'm poor. Yeah, but we're going to go find out where your money went because that's what we care about. Okay, well, screw you. Laissez-faire capitalism, which is an economic system that in which production, distribution, and exchange of goods and services depend on private citizens investing capital and making profits. The goal is to maximize the efficient use of the capital. And again,
Of capital.
of capital. And again,
Yeah.
you can't have capitalism or a capital, right? Because here's the thing. Where do we live? Not just America. What is it called?
State.
United States, right? And
Yeah.
every state has a what?
A capital.
Right. And you can't have if you have a capital, odds are you need capital. And that does not mean capitalism all the time, but you need capital in order for your state to run because you need money for roads, right? Who's going to pay for the roads? That's always the first question everybody asks. Who's going to pay for the roads? Who's going to pay for the garbage guy? Who's going to pay for this? Right? And that's always where everybody argues about. And this is where I've been telling people. An agora can function without the necessity of state capital, a commune, a syndicalist. But suddenly, when you come to capitalism, you tend to have to rely on the state money in order to thrive. So it's almost like capitalism is a synonym for statism, right? It's like, okay, so we still need the state in order to determine our exchange here. Because that's when I was talking with the other individual. I'm not going to say his name. I'm talking with him, and I said, but dude, let's say at the end of the day, all I want is room and board, and I'm going to help on your farm. Is that enough? He never really conceded and said, yeah. I was like, if that was the deal we struck, everybody else can argue whatever else they want. Would that be an efficient exchange if that's all I wanted? And he couldn't say yes. So I have to wonder, are you truly anti-state?
Right.
Because all I want is just basic life necessities. And if I'm going to be a functioning, like I will be contributing, I'm not going to just be grifting off of you. I will be contributing to helping. But all I want is this in our exchange. But you couldn't concede and just say, yeah, that's fine. So capitalism, are you telling me this is determined on money? And as long as I consent, whatever money. So again, we're still in bed with the state, right?
Yeah.
And this is where Christians, can you think outside of that? As I just said with agorism, now, there's libertarianism where people form a political party, and I'm very much against that concept. If you need a party, a collective, or a politician in order to represent your group, you're doing it wrong. The object of original libertarianism is a little, what I would like to venture is the Max Stirner perspective. I am my own person. Everything else is an illusion, right? I was like, oh, you need to do this because your church pastor said so. Why? Well, he's the authority figure. He knows. Okay, but why do I have to kiss his butt? He's above you. He knows more about. Okay, I'm my own person. Why do I got to go kiss it? Oh, okay. You got to go and pay your respects and say, "Long live the king." Why? Well, because he's got the bloodline. He's got this. And I was like, but why? At a certain point, you're just saying, "Listen, I only care about me." Right? Because when I grow up, I become my own man and I leave my dad's household. Why? Because I am efficient as my own individual to go and do so. I don't really care about all your adjectives and your BS. Obviously, I because I don't care about that, I am focused about my own well-being. However, as a Christian, right? You now, a man leaves his home to become one with a woman, right? So the two become one flesh. However, that's where a man goes, okay, now that I love myself, as Christ loved the church, am I willing now to use my expertise or whatever gifts that God's given me as my own distinct individual and help somebody else? Or am I just going to hoard all of that for my own? This is where it veers what I would say Ayn Rand or Max Stirner. Max Stirner would say, I believe all of us come together. As long as you establish that you are your own person, I am my own person, we come together and we live in harmony because we established everything else is a spook. It's an illusion of conformity. You follow where are you tracking with what I'm saying, or am I going too far into the weeds with explanation?
No, no, I'm getting what you're saying.
Okay. Do you agree with it, or do you think that there's something that you would oppose that?
I mean, again, I think that there's certain yes, you can sit there and say you are your own person. Okay. So now what happens when somebody who says, I am my own person encroaches on your own person? Where do we go?
Well, that's so again the non-aggression principle (NAP) in libertarian circles exists, but this again as fellow Christians, right? Am I my brother's keeper? I should hope so. Or you're following in the footsteps of Cain, where you have to take somebody's life, or as you say, encroach, manipulate, hurt, beguile, deceive. Right? You could be like Jacob and Esau. I'm really hungry. Could you give me a bowl of stew? Not unless you give me your birthright. Okay, fine. You're just joking anyway, probably. No, I wasn't joking. I wanted something, right? So you now have looked at that exchange, which again, against brothers, you've now looked
Right.
at that exchange of what can I get from you in this interaction, as opposed to, yeah, you're hungry. You've been working, you had a bad hunt, I get it. This is where again you're filtering it through the spirit, not through the state. And you're over here going, yeah, I do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, golden rule. That if you follow where I'm going, Dana, a lot of
Yeah,
it is like this was already in God's word. Yeah.
that's right.
Oh, all I'm saying is Now, can we apply that? Oh, no, no, not unless it's legal. So are you filtering it through the spirit or the state? Well, it aligns with God's. It's good morals, it's good ethics, sure. But how are you filtering it? Are you determining that I'm submitting this? My will wants to do this. My sin, my sin wants to go this direction. I know that's what I want, but how I'm going to achieve that is going against God. So what am I going to
Yeah.
do? Lucky for you, I like the big guy and he likes me. I'm going to, right? That's what a Christian is supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians don't think like that.
No, that's true. They don't. Again, I'm going to go and the guy that got out of the pew, got in his car, lit his cigarette, drove to the package store, picked up the beer,
Mm.
and went and watched the game, which took 3 hours compared to his hour at church.
Right, right. It's like, again, what you invest your time in and how you help it with other. If again, you have the right to help other people, you just as equally have the right to say, I'm just going to serve myself in this situation. But again, I think we should get to that point where you're at least confident to say, I am my own person. But I would like to contribute something back to the tribe because I love them and they helped me
Right.
get to where I'm at. Whether they're old and
Oh,
they're giving me wisdom from their age, or it's the baby that's reminding me I need to be humble because this is how God sees his children.
oh, that's it. Again, like you said, the thing is, we're supposed to actually try to, again, going to love thy brother like thyself,
Mm,
and the thing is that's so that, you know, okay, you might be having a bad day, and I help you out to have a better day.
right.
Maybe you can help somebody be better the next day.
Hmm.
And again, this is what I go back to is I try to hopefully be a better person every day, whatever it may be. It might not be something. That I have friends that aren't Christians and stuff like this, and I help them out and do the best I can,
Right.
and that's all I can do, and
Right.
and leave it up to God.
And that's what it should be is like, listen, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Right,
But but again, that's what I would say this is like, as for me and my house, or like this, if I'm the head of the roof or of this household, this is what we're going to do. I'm not going to dictate, coerce, or pass legislation saying you got to do what I do. However, if you're looking for an example, you're looking for a consultation, you want help, I'm there for you. If
right.
that's what you want to strive for, likewise. And again, this is where I would agree. This is the mentality we should have. There is the caveat, but again, submitting to the spirit as opposed to the state. Essentially, how does agorism relate to libertarianism? Agorism is a radical libertarian philosophy that seeks to create a society free of coercion and force by using black and gray markets in the underground or illegal economy to siphon power away from the state. This was produced as an idea by Samuel Konkin, who was a libertarian author and philosopher who advocated for agorism, a form of revolutionary market anarchism. He proposed a strategy to achieve a free society through nonviolent, extra legal means rather than political action. His three concepts were summarized as agorism, the ultimate goal of a society based on voluntary exchange where all relations between people are conducted through a free market or an agora, completely untainted by state theft, assault, or coercion. So taxes, whatever. It's like, oh, you need to do it. Blah, blah, blah. This is where I was telling you about. I think it was in North Korea. There was originally this black market. It's known as like the Blue Tent City, and the state would go in there and they were crushing it and say like, okay, well, you don't want this black market stuff, you need to be dependent on the state. And then after some time they were going, wait a minute, we might want to concede on this point. Why? Because if the people actually are getting a little something here and there, they're not going to have grievances and throw revolts against the state. So if we pretend we didn't see them smuggling that in, we actually might be able to give them a temporary pacifier by allowing them to have their little black market. Right. And so that's actually still a thing in North Korea to this day. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, okay, so if we're able to get rid of the state, and even at a certain point, sometimes the state will go like, oh, wow, yeah, maybe we should just shut up because interfering is actually causing us a problem. It's shooting ourselves in the foot. Let them have their little thing. Counter economics, the method for achieving agorism can encourage shifting all economic activity to the black and gray markets or unregulated, untaxed transactions. Which is, again, wouldn't that be great if every time you bought a candy bar, you didn't have to pay another 25 cents or whatever for tax? Right? Or like you
Yeah.
were saying with the ear of corn thing, why did it go up when I used to be able to buy 6 ears of corn for 88 cents, and now you're telling me I had to pay a buck roughly if we round up? I had to pay a buck per ear. Yeah, a buccaneer. Ha ha ha. Buccaneer and get a corn on the cob. That should be a good shirt. I think some people would appreciate that. Or it's a corn on the cob with a pirate patch, dressed like a pirate. Sorry. Uh, or better yet, it's a kernel of corn with a buccaneer in it. Sorry. Um, Anti-political action can staunchly oppose participating in the political process, including voting or forming political parties. He viewed libertarian parties as status co-options of libertarianism and termed this as the alternative strategy. So again, it's like, okay, if you need a political party, you're doing it wrong. Why can't we just take care of the affairs of the city, polis, right? By just helping our neighbor as ourselves without the need of the
Yeah.
state? Or remember when we went to the Renaissance Fair and I went up to the guy and I said, what about how the haggle? And he goes,
Yes.
and you were like, oh, you actually knew like a really, archaic term. And we were actually able to haggle over the price of what he had set. But then we were like, all right, well, does this sound fair to you? Does this sound fair to you? We actually did a haggle. How many people actually think like that or even know what that term means?
Yeah. That's true. He did seem a little overzealous when we wanted to haggle. We actually did pretty good.
It wasn't too
So
bad. I was actually quite happy with that situation and how it ended up. So
yeah.
I was saying that capitalism is the embodiment of the question, who died and made you the boss? What? You did not create the land. You did not create the money. You did not create the raw materials. And you did not create the people whose labor transforms those materials into products. What do you mean by this, Brandon? Hold on. I got scriptural backing. The land belongs to God, not man, as Leviticus 25:23 says, is that you are sojourners with me, talking to God's people in the wilderness, right? And I own the land. Well, that's just a promise. You really think God just regulates himself to one piece of land on the entire earth? That's favoring dispensationalism. Where you are, right? You are now, your body is the temple of the Lord. God is not a physical form unless you call Christ into question. Where did Christ go? Back into heaven. What did he leave behind? The Spirit. What was leading the children of Israel through the wilderness? God's Spirit, which was where? In the Ark of the Covenant. So where the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where God is. So if the Holy Spirit is now indwelling the saints, right? And on top of that, our citizenship is in heaven, Philippians 3:20. So if anything, once a Christian becomes saved and you come up from baptism, you are no longer defined by your citizenship of whatever empire, realm, and border you were born into. You are now a citizen of heaven, and you are a celestial ambassador behind enemy lines, recruiting souls for eternity. Okay, so the land is not. Yes, you do not own the land. The money bears the image of Caesar, Matthew 22:21. And we, man, your neighbor bears the image of God. Let us make man in our own image, Genesis 1:26. And what did often a Caesar affiliate themselves with? A sun god, a god of the sun, Nimrods, fools. So, if this is the mentality, why am I favoring this little guy on a coin that's not even here right now, right? And I'm now projecting onto this icon, an idol, right? I'm now projecting reverence towards them as opposed to God, which is a spiritual thing, not a physical thing. Even the
Yep.
concept, I'm believing in God's word. So God spoke it into existence. How come that wasn't enough? Do you ever think about that, Dana? Is that sometimes when I'm writing down a note, it's helping me to what? Remember?
Remember, you know?
That's sometimes what we're doing when we're reading God's word. It's to help us to remember. Thy word I hide in thy heart, I may not sin against God. I have it written down so that I can repeat it to myself. I have confidence in what I'm reading. Now, how many people are thinking like that? Well, again, and on top of that, God so loved the world that I gave you my word. I sent him in the flesh. Oh, you gave us a package? Yeah, I gave you a package. A bounded package, and what did you do with it? You busted it
Put
up.
it, yeah, put it on a tree.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, I get, but what was granted to us through the shedding of his blood? Salvation, the gift of the Spirit, the ripping of the temple veil, which I truly think now, like I think we could touch the Ark of the Covenant potentially, because why? And now indwells the saints. That's phenomenal. So again, he said he will send a comforter to you in the absence of Christ's physical presence. Wow. Yeah. So why are we so concerned about all of these things if I can't even treat my neighbor as myself? And so when I'm going to my boss saying, I need a little bit more money, I got, 5, 6, 10, 11 kids at home. I need a little bit more money. I don't care about that. But I've been with your company for 15 years. Can I get a little extra? No. Right. Now you're equating them to an economic as opposed to a situational perspective. And because the economic compulsion is forcing you, that's not right, but it dehumanizes people. It erodes humanity's value, right, for corporate profits. So if the land is God's, the currencies is Caesar's, and your neighbor bears the image of God, why measure human worth by profit margins? Wealth may be a useful earthly tool, but it is a poor eternal truth. Money is temporary, truth is eternal, profit is a ledger entry. Human dignity and honesty are not. And honesty derives from honor. And in the Greek culture, you can't sell your honor because that is an intrinsic thing of value. Whereas if you're selling it, it's an external component, right? I need money. So you're looking at an external thing as opposed to a matter of honor. It's an inward thing of conviction. There is no amount of outside material that will compromise my stance. How many people think like that today? Like during C19, my job forced me to get it. And I'm over here going, yeah, my job was forcing me to get it too. And I literally told the boss right to his face, I said, dude, I understand you got to give me that letter. I said, but I ain't doing it. Come on, man. It's the president of the United States that's saying you got to do it. I don't care if it's the emperor of the freaking galaxy. I ain't doing it. You're going to lose your job then. Okay, so be it. Was I worried? A little bit in the back of my mind, but not extremely, because I'd rather stand by principle as opposed to be coerced into doing something I didn't believe in. How many people were willing to make
Right.
that stance?
No, there aren't too many, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Oh, good. Keep that brightness. That's just right. We're starting to lose you to the dark.
you did that. It's coming from the screen. When
From
you go
me?
to a dark, when it goes to it, I
Oh, let me
haven't
see that
turned,
again.
I haven't.
Oh, I have the power to put you into the dark. I was born in the dark. Anyway, sorry. Um, billionaires don't create jobs. The working class does. Okay, let's see. Yeah, It's like you're only giving me a job because you have a necessity to get something out into the world. Well, yeah, yeah, but it's my product. It's my property. It's my. What did I just say? Years of Jubilee. Every 7 years, you're supposed to give up anything that you did have. Well, that doesn't sound fair. I'm sorry. That was God's laws, not mine. Not mine. I didn't prescribe that. Billionaires don't pay taxes. The working class does. Like I just said, they get the tax write off. Billionaires don't bring wealth to local economies, the working class does. And billionaires are hoarders who only exist by exploiting working class families and minorities. Right? I'm over just saying, again, I'm not arguing for Marxism. I'm not arguing, like, at the end of the day, I'm just going, yeah, stop dehumanizing somebody because all you want is money. And then again, there's a lady, Emily Wilson, she was debating somebody. She said, Alex Pretty, he's a useless citizen of society because he was out protesting. Okay, but again, if you're again whether psyop or not, I'm asking people always from a humanitarian perspective. If he's working nursing hours, he finally gets off in his morning. He's having a little cup of coffee. He sees a woman getting beat up in the street. He's standing between the ICE officer and whatever's going down. He ends up getting shot and tackled to the ground, or tackled to the ground and shot. And it's like, okay, but you also said in the debate he is a worthless individual to society because he wasn't working. And I'm thinking to myself, you do realize that's like eugenics, right? That's social eugenics. You're basically saying if you're not a productive citizen, if you're not contributing anything to society, you're not paying your dues, your taxes, whatever, then you are a worthless citizen. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the beast system. Well, if I don't plow, the master will be angry. So
Yep.
that's not the mentality you should be having. But those blinders are making you only focus what's up ahead. And that matches with 2 Corinthians 4:4 that Satan has blinded the minds of the unbelievers. Government, mind control. Mm-hmm. And again, God made everything free. Man monetized his creation. Why do you think the earth is groaning in Revelation? It's sick. We don't even have a year of rest internationally because we keep pumping, 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 pumping. I want more. I want to take more. Now even the national forests, they're taking away from that as well. They're starting to let people do oiling and fracking and all this sort of stuff. So it's like we can't even reserve a little something for the animals in nature and for our own, you know what? I need to get away from the toxic city. Whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. Proverbs 14:31. You can Bible that. Don't you love it when the Bible gives you some vindication through a conviction that you're having? I got
Isn't it
more.
every day? Isn't that every day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
every day, man. Yes.
Every day.
Yes. And why is it always work harder for the people already juggling more than one job like yourself, make ends meet, and not pay your workers better to the companies raking in billions of profits? How dare you say that, you commie?
That's it.
Like, oh, okay.
We
So
worked
asking,
for it.
so
We
it's literally
worked
being
for
the Oliver Twist. Please, sir, I'd like some more.
it.
What?
No.
Nobody asks for more in the house of the widow Corny. That's kind of what we're dealing with here when you're up here saying, listen, inflation, it's really screwed us over. Because, like, all these tariff rebates or whatever it was that they're refunding Costco, Walmart, Target, a couple other the big ones. All these conglomerates are getting money back from the tariffs. And it was the people who were paying for the inflation of said tariffs. So why are the corporations getting the break or the refunds and not the citizens? Because you got duped. You trusted capitalism. And I'm saying the same thing if we were going over in Russia. Whatever government you're having there regulating your economy, they're going to screw you over every single time. People idolize the 1950s, but they don't like the free college, massively unionized labor force, and 90% tax rate that produced that era. Gotta love selective nostalgia. And they hated the unions back in the 1880s. They were making sure that they were, pushing back as far as they could. Eventually, you get to the Haymarket Massacre. They call it a riot from the state perspective. I call it a massacre. Um, because they're basically saying, listen, we just want to do an 8-hour workday if that's all right by you, because you're making us work such excessive hours and under poor conditions. We got kids whose fingers are getting caught in machines. We'd like to put a stop to that if you don't mind. How dare you? Like, again, just asking for basic humanitarian perspectives here, and it seems like that is controversial. Now, in the very least, I like ANCOM. What is that? Let me hear me out. It is basically saying, what about communism without the state? So going back to the way of the tribes. We're hunters and gatherers, but just because I went out on the hunt, does the woman not get to eat when I bring back? Just because, Tom, Dick, and Harry were doing harvesting while I went out hunting and or was collecting wood, does that mean that they can't have a little something of the meat that I contribute? And
Yeah.
again, like you're gonna mention Wampum. I am going to bring that up because this does actually align. And I'm over here just saying, okay, so what if we just ran a city where again it says basically fundamentally seeks to abolish the state coercion, capitalism, and social hierarchies. It is deeply conflicts with the modern political conservatism, which generally advocates for preserving traditional institutions, religious hierarchies, and private property. So again, when people are saying religions are controlling that kind of stuff, yeah, it is. Because you got hierarchies, you got everybody that's saying you gotta only listen to the holy guy, or traditional institutions. Our founding fathers, and they never really look into what these guys were doing, right? Economic interpretation of the United States Constitution by Charles Beard was going into this and saying that they were doing it basically because they were a chartered state off of the East India Tea Company. For Canada, it was the Hudson Bay Company. But they basically get a sovereign state, and they're over here saying, okay, like a privateer, any money that I accrue here, right, it's going to be profitized for me. And I will give you, what do you call it, like a pro bono if you need me to go fight a war. Who do they always call in Europe? The cleanup crew.
Whoa.
Who?
Yeah.
Who's been for the last two wars? The big ones.
The big
America.
ones?
Yeah, they call in America for World War One and Two.
Oh, yeah.
It's your ace in the hole. It's extra troops.
Well, that was it. I mean, look, I mean, both Germany and you know England were you know they had just gotten done with the first, and a lot of their soldiers were already injured or hurt from the First World War.
Mm-hmm. So again,
So
you have to call in the reserves. Call America the reserves, which is kind of
mhm.
sad. And it's ironic because again, when you say ANCOM, so it's just like, okay, so without Stalin, without Lenin, without Mao, without all these guys, just go back to the way of the tribes, whether early Europe, early Native Americans, just go back to that. How dare you say such a? And again, you were taught that communism was bad by the same people who thought segregation was good. Think about it, folks, just for a minute. That Bible Belt, ISSTD,
Yeah,
eyes like, let's go through it here. The KKK, come on, come on.
yeah.
And again, communism is when you starve and you have to work all the time, and there's lots of war. Capitalism, banana wars, all the wars in South America, all the wars that were happening in the Middle East, right? War, 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 war. War to get more. So, this is to quote Peter Kropotkin on mutual aid. When we cast a broad glance at the present constitution of the European society, we are struck at once with the fact that although so much has been done to get rid of the village community, this form of union continues to exist to the extent we shall presently see, and that many attempts are now made either to reconstitute it into some shape or another, or to find some substitute for it. The current theory, as regards to the village community, is that it is a Western Europe is died out by natural death, because the communal possession of the soil was found inconsistent with the modern requirements of agriculture. But the truth is that nowhere did the village community disappear of its own accord. Everywhere, on the contrary, it took the ruling class several centuries of persistent but not always successful efforts to abolish it and to confiscate the communal lands. Meaning, there were no lords, owners, barons, masters, or whatever you want to call them. There was no fiefdoms. It was the way of the tribes. It is open to everyone. Oh, yeah. And now this is problematic when somebody brings it up, saying, as a sociologist, anthropologist, historian, I am merely bringing you to your attention that. Did you see that clip that I showed from Hell on Wheels? I think it was season 2, where the chief was basically being approached by the railroad guy, and he's saying the United States government is
Yes.
going to, yeah. So the government's going to give you this money or whatever to buy your land. He's like, but do they own it? No. Well, then how did they trade for it? No. Well, then how can they own it? Well, you don't understand. He's like, no, that's not. Our people don't even understand the way of life that you are pitching to me, because our way of life, it's already free. Why do you need to do economy on it? You're ruining a system that was already perfect because someone's going to make a profit. Someone can sit back and collect money while other people do the labor, right? Well, it's out of consent. As long as they consent, then, right? In short, to speak, the natural death of the village communities in virtue of the economical laws is a joke as to speak of the natural death of soldiers slaughtered on a battlefield. The fact was simply this: the village communities had lived for over 1,000 years, and where and when the peasants were not ruined by wars and exactions, they steadily improved their methods of culture. But as the value of land was increasing, in consequence of the growth of industries and the nobility had acquired, under the state organization, a power which is never had under the feudal system, it took possession of the best parts of the communal lands and did its best to destroy the communal institutions. Again, communal is a bit like this, Dana. We went to the movie theater at midway or the end of the movie. We go to the bathroom. We are using a what?
Communal bathroom.
Yes. You think that is a natural right? Because if you go outside in our state, what happens? Potentially, the law of the state has the right to enforce you being arrested for public exposure, even if the only thing that saw it was a freaking bush. Now, think about that. Am I going to say, I think it's fair that we should have a communal restroom for everybody? Or am I going to be an a-hole and be like, no, shouldn't have a communal restroom. It should only be a private one for me. Okay. So what happens whenever, well, they can get arrested for all I care. So why did we make this concession? Same thing with the highway. How come that's not only reserved for business Mongols to travel back and forth? How come we all have the allowance to use it? So now they've inverted the concept of community as more so coercion. In order to survive in the world that we created, you get to use that as long as you work for me. Now, think in Revelation terms. You won't be able to buy or sell unless you are part of the beast system. Oh, that's why I tell people anarchy is the exit off the highway of conformity. I don't want it. Why? Because you're screwing everybody, and I'm done with it. Well, then we'll kill you. Please do. As Caboose said from Red versus Blue, a sword is a key, and when you stick it in someone, it unlocks their death. All right. So, this was in his other book, Peter Kropotkin, Conquest for Bread. And as you can see up here, we have the police, we have the church, and then we have a landlord, and then we have a businessman. The state, having always taken from him, the individual, a large share of his produce for taxes, the priest for tithe, and the landlord for rent. A whole class of men have been created who formerly communed what they produced, save what was set aside for unforeseen accidents or expenses incurred afforestation, roads, etc., but who today are compelled to live very poorly from hand to mouth, the remainder having been taken from them by the state, the landlord, the priest, and the usurer. So I created a caste system. Like, these people, I have to give them all of these things because, if I want to survive in this system, I got to give them, right? So it's like, you want me to pay my abuser for the continuing the abuse? Status codependent Stockholm syndrome. Hit me again, Daddy. Here's another $10. That's for the IRS. Ah, that's for not coming in for the 8-hour work week. Ah, don't forget that 10% to God. Ah, oh, okay. God, I'm sorry. This is why Christians, real Christians, are a little bit problematic, because they're over here going, now, wait a minute. This doesn't feel like loving my neighbor as myself. So was Jesus a socialist? No, I think he was just more so be a communitarian. Don't oppress your neighbor, because what do we get? Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You pay tithes of mint, oil, dill, and cumin, but you have disregarded the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. Matthew 23:23. So what I just read from a book from 1880 something to this from Christ, right? About taxes and tithing. And what did we just talk about? You should naturally already have that if you were a man of God, God's people. What does it say? The real matters of the law, God's law, not man's, justice and mercy, faithfulness to God. And if you love God, then you're not going to abuse the people. I don't know. So a good speaker will be able to point out the exact place on a wampum belt, which is to answer to each particular sentence the same as we can point out a passage in a book. John Heckewelder, Account of the Indian Nations, 1819. Money speaks sense in a language of all nations understand, wrote Afra Ben in her play The Rover of 1681. This statement is attractive insofar as it seems to go beyond saying all human beings alike are venal, and suggests that money talk, whatever that is, might be a solution to the problems of translingual international communication. Ben's statement gains this attractiveness, however, only by passing over issues of elementary import. Perhaps not all nations have money. Maybe the monetary systems of nations vary from people to people in the same way that languages vary. If so, is the language that Ben's money speaks comprehensively to all nations one of many universal languages, a sort of lingua franca? A little bit more simplistic. So if everybody understands that money rules the world and it's agreed upon illusion, is it possible that this will be how the beast system, or again, I'm not saying that's what she's saying, but isn't that possible how they all speak? Is they understand money? Yes, no, dollar bills, rubies, shekels, whatever you want to call it. Now, as I was reading this other part, I want to get to a specific part here. John Stuart Mill, neighbors, procurement of the currency. So much barbarism. So hold on. I had a thing here. Okay. So for economists in the tradition of Mill's social philosophy, the guy we read before, John Stuart Mill, there are usually two interdialectic dialectics, silently and often uncritically at work, their geography of money. First is the rhetorical dialectic of one and the many. Second is the tension between two polar opposite notions lurking behind the idea of the one. On the one pole is the view that there should be one currency for a nation, one currency is the relevant rallying cry. On the other pole is the view that there should be one currency in the world, one currency is the appropriate motto. The hypothesis of one currency, whether global or national, supposes potentially two apparently different political ends, the existence of many nations, each one with his own currency, and the destruction of all nations except one. If those who yearn for the pre Babel language generally have a more or less imperialist yen for plural linguisticides, those who crave one world currency for the future usually want what I call pneumicides. Debates about European monetary union in the last century clarify the operation of this dialectic. On one side of the debate are the arguments that the foundation of one nation state is intimately and inextricably linked with its own currency. Hoffman says most independent nations, except for a few that belong to the currency unions, continue to issue their own currencies and use them within their borders. Blah, 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 blah. And on the other side of the debate, there are those economists who see nothing special in a nation's not having its own currency. Fisher writes, there is nothing especially exotic about an economy that does not use its own money. Pascal Salin writes similarly, the production of money, like the production of law, is not an essential attribute of state sovereignty, despite what mythology says. Behind all such would-be demythologizing statements about nationhood and money, there often lurks oversimplifications, probably rhetorically necessary in such disputes. In fact, a surprising number of economists seem to agree explicitly with Harmelink that a nation is merely a people with a common confusion, Babel, as to their origins and a common antipathy to their neighbors. God created the nations. So God, you're telling me God intentionally wanted to continue Babel? Yeah, obviously, because that's what he did at the tower. Okay, so then what was the day of Pentecost for? Didn't everybody hear the gospel in their own native tongue? Didn't the whole purpose of Peter going to Joppa to go speak to the centurion was to you can now reach the Gentiles? Hence why I brought down that mat with all the animals on it. Oh, so no longer a confusion. It's now come back together, right? The sheep hear my voice, master's call. When one is armed with this simple credo, it is almost effortless to believe, as many economists do, that all that would be needed for world peace is a universal currency system. Such a system would mark the end of national geography. The new deteriorized currency, say its sponsor, will now promote a different sense of identity and presumably a much better one. What's your thoughts, big buddy?
What are my thoughts? There's a lot there. I gotta tell you, there's a lot there.
Again, you could say what I'm talking about is a bunch of mumbo jumbo with this Babel and Hermes and this Emerald Tablets Tammuz dude. But when you're reading something like this from a modern lens and you know that they want to establish a Babel 2.0, right? Is it really that far fetched when we get to the verses in Revelation that says that no man will be able to buy or sell unless they join the mark of the beast system, like the finale of digital, right? Because technology,
No.
tech
I mean,
means snake.
look,
Go ahead.
no, like you said, I mean, no, I understand what you're saying. I mean, obviously, every generation has said that that was the generation of, wars and hurricanes and so on and so forth. So I understand what you're saying, and yes, it does because I mean, okay, now look, we've gotten rid of the penny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all right, pretty soon we get rid of folded cash because now we can just put it on a card, and now you've got everything else that's going on with that. So I believe what you're saying, and I do. I think that we have to prepare for the end, no matter what. As far as Christians go, we have to prepare and hopefully get the word out. And I mean, yeah, we look back at all this and things, and like I said, I mean, I believe that we've always been in the fight.
Right, but
He's
again,
got to take it.
the finalization phase is what I'm kind of pushing home here, because while this system has always been, it's now coming down to the separation of sheep and goats, wheat and tares, where
No,
again, sheep and goats, we have flock systems, right? You're choosing peace and safety, the solution of the world, right? iPhone, money phone, one eye, right? And I did that for demonstrational purposes. You can either keep choosing that, or the final call's being made, and you can say, you know what? I'd rather choose that, right? Take that leap of faith, believe in things that are unseen as if something tangible that's in my hand. Because what is digital ultimately? Can you see it 24/7?
no,
Okay. Can you see God 24/7? And I mean in a physical sense.
no.
See? So now you're choosing between two spiritual components, right? The unseen realm, and you're going to do that with your money, with your what you trust in, right? In God we trust is on your money, one eye, or you can trust in God your Father to provide for you, even
Exactly.
even if it means the elimination of your body on this earth or the extinction of it. That is what you're going to put your trust in. Now, how many do you think Christians are thinking in that mentality?
They're not. Again, they're not. I mean, look, you turn around and you take somebody's phone away from them. Look at the anxiety that these people have with it. I mean, it's they've actually done studies where people are sitting there and they're talking about the size of the human brain has shrunk due to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I mean, look, you turn around and you have my generation who can remember phone numbers from back in the 70s and 60s, but yet we can't even remember our own phone number half the time now due
Mm-hmm.
to the fact that we don't use it all the time. How many people,
Use it or lose it. It's from a spiritual
huh?
component. It's like it's the spiritual component of use it or lose it.
Well, that's it. I mean, and that's what's happening. I mean, it's the death of the human mind. I
Yeah.
mean, how many people read a book nowadays? I mean, they don't. There's not a lot of people that read books nowadays.
Well, again, this is where I think people become susceptible to like Satan Little Seasons theories, because they're not cross-referencing. Okay, they say this is what happened in history. Now you're going to believe somebody that says no. From when Christ, the temple fell into the 70 A.D. Then we went from 1776. All the rest is pseudoscience and history. Everything. So what about all the
Well,
martyrs that died between 70? They don't exist. They're fake.
that's
So
it.
everything that they put out there and wrote is just don't just it's not real.
Look,
Whereas you read something like this and it makes you go, wow, somebody like only 100 something years ago was writing something on this, and this seems to give further validity because they're talking about what? Babel. So why are we still
it-
remembering Babel if Christ already returned? Wouldn't we be trying to thinking of the kingdom of heaven? Oh, he brainwashed you. Satan is that powerful? So what's the point of trying? Like, wouldn't you want me to forget Christ itself as opposed to history? Do you see what I'm saying? So now you're trusting your
yeah.
podcast or whoever's pitching this thing because you don't cross-reference and fact-check anything in books because it's all pseudoscience according to them.
Well, and that's it. They turn around. I mean, look at AI nowadays. I mean, they rewrite whole histories.
Hmm.
I mean, they can put whoever's face on whatever and make them say whatever the heck they want.
Right.
I mean, what is it called? The monopoly guy with the thing, come on. I mean, I just think that yes, we have we have to be,
Vigilant, you froze.
and we need to look towards God more than we have been looking towards AI and whatever else is coming our way.
Agreed.
I,
All right,
I
last thing on this page is money is like a flag. Each country has its own. So if you abolish that, I'm a patriot. So now what are you if they get rid of all your countries? Well, I guess I'm a citizen of the world. Oh, and what did Christ say? He who
Mhm.
loves the world is at
Yep.
enmity with God. Sorry, that's James 4:4. But what was it that Christ said specifically? Oh, what does a man profit? Profit to if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul. So you literally just chose a side. And New World Order, NWO, backwards is own.
Yep.
You can go to somebody like this, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. Again, economic connecting to Mercury, Baal, money. You will own nothing and you will be happy because everything will be a subscription. You want sunlight? That's going to be $50 for 1 hour per day.
Yep.
For sunlight, but again, you monetize everything that God created. The reason everything is a subscription is because the elites realize that if you own things, you are dangerous. If you own your own car, house, and your tools, you can say no. If you rent your life, you have to say yes to everything. Now, do you think there's a rent subscription fee in heaven?
I don't think so.
Just obedience, please. I'm not asking
Like
for that much, just
like
obedience.
like I said, I just don't want to get to that door and have them say, "Who are you?"
Right? Right? And again,
That
Klaus Schwab
scares.
wrote the fourth industrial revolution. You see all these Wi-Fi signs for the branches, eugenics.
Yeah.
You want to turn us into robots, empire of iron and clay. I don't see Satan's little season in between here. I don't see it. This is what they're saying. We went from Rome to Christ returned over here, and then we came back, and here's the feet. I'm like, guys, they're telling us they want to merge man with machine. Literally, Wi-Fi, 6G, Genesis 6, Days of Noah. All right, Golden Dome. Who's building that currently? And you hear this one? Wage increase causes inflation. Rich splaining. When a person who hasn't experienced poverty gives you patronizing advice on how to get out of poverty.
Yeah.
I think we've had bosses in our past that are over here saying, "Well, why don't you just do this? Have you been in my shoes?" Well, I'm poor. No, you're not. Yeah, yeah. Wow, you went real dark. Hold on, I'll go quick. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. Proverbs 22:7. He that oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Proverbs 22:16. A stingy man hastens after wealth and does not know that poverty awaits him. Proverbs 28:22. Do you see a consistent theme? Materialism? Now, I was reading this book, and this guy died. He wrote this while in prison. I think that's worth taking into consideration. He was formerly a Confederate soldier. He ended up marrying a black woman, so people, I don't think he was fighting for the. Again, everybody had their own reasons for going for a fight. Eventually became an anarchist. He was arguing and advocating with the rest of the liberals, but unfortunately they framed it on all the anarchists, saying, okay, we don't we want the 8 hour workday, but at the same time, we would prefer that the state just doesn't exist at if we could. Chapter 2, he ends it with this: chattel slaves, which is what you see over here in the left, somebody at an auction. Before the war, American Civil War from 61 to 65, were valued at $1,000 a piece for their maintenance. 16 years after the abolition of chattel slavery, wage workers employed in manufacturers in John Adams' state of Massachusetts were worth commercially 850 or 150 less than the former chattel slave. So basically, used to cost $1,000 a year to feed, to house, for the medical bills for the slave. But now, utilizing wagedom, capitalism, the slaves will pay them 850 for the year. And on top of that, we're going to now have them pay us, as opposed to doing maintenance. We're going to have them pay for their existence. And now they're going to have to work for our monopolies in order to do this. And that 850, they're going to pay it right back to us. Okay, I like where you're going with this. That's what capitalism became. So these statistics prove the claim made by the supporters of the wage system of labor, capitalism, that wage labor is cheaper than chattel slavery. They demonstrated the economic law of competition, which is the rule of the cheapest. The propertyless class, the wage workers, are by competition forced to sell their labor themselves to the lowest bidder or starve. Work for us and join our system, or we're going to make it economically unviable for you to live. And again, this is Albert Parsons' Anarchism, its philosophies and scientific basis as defined by some of its apostles. So after this change, the new slaves, the wage workers, now had to pay for their own upkeep. Whatever money they were given was immediately redistributed back to the same extortion monopolies that gave them their jobs. Free will was extinguished into economic compulsion. Work for our system or die. Or go homeless, then die. Doesn't that suck?
Yeah.
That's the death and taxes crap.
Well, here we are. Here
It's
we are.
like, what? So I kind of wonder if this is where we got the word villain from, because this was the migration of the payment system and or how we got to where we are. Villanage was a medieval feudal system of serfdom. It defined the social status, the land tenure of paid peasants who were legally bound to their lord's land, exchanging unfree agricultural labor for protection and a small plot to farm. So that might be what you call the original sharecropping. Serfage, where it means serfdom, the state of being a serf in the feudal system where poor workers are tied to a piece of land. It is another word for forced labor and bondage during the medieval times. Your duty was to a lord. The workers had to farm the lord's land and give him crops or money. In return, they got a small piece of land to grow their own food and protection. Unlike not full of slaves, unlike real slaves, workers could not be sold all by themselves away from the land. They had some basic family rights. Then it evolved to chattel slavery, which again, a brutal system where human beings is legally owned as a personal property by another, right? And a commodity of permanent bondage or inheritable status. So if they have kids, they're bequeathed to the next generation. And then eventually to wagedom is a rare archaic noun that means the system of practice of employing workers in exchange for wages or the condition of being wage-earning laborer. And like I said, if you get wagedom, you have to pay it right back into the system. You're paying your dues. But what if I don't have money? Well, you're probably living off grid. At this point, so there was a couple other people that were cited in this particular book that Albert Parson compiled, and his wife, I think, threw in a couple of articles. This one is from C.L. James. The workers are forced to subsist upon their wages, and when unable to procure employment, become objects of capitalist charity. Therein, the wage system differs from the systems which preceded it. Villanage, serfage, and chattel slavery secured the labor of his daily bread. The master class were impelled by pecuniary interest to provide for the existence of the laborers. The person of the laborer was held as property, and his sickness or death entailed a pecuniary loss upon the owner. Hence, as property, they were cared for, provided for not by themselves, but by their owners. The wage system changed the relationship by making the laborer a free man, dependent upon his wage for subsistence. Subsistence? Ugh. It has forced him to compete with his fellow laborer. Like you said, they don't want us being friends, for the chance to earn wages. A competition that constantly tended to reduce wages to a bare subsistence. The competition among the capitalist class employers for control of markets also tended constantly to reduce wages to the subsistence point. Out of the double competition from above and below arose the combinations of pools, trusts, and syndicates of capital, which, as for its object first, control of markets by regulating prices, and secondly, protection against demands of the laborers for better pay and shorter hours. Kind of sucky, right? And like you said, so now it's literally like dangling a chandelier or like a piñata of cash, and you're having the people in a pit, the men, fighting over who can get that piñata of cash first. Well, I worked harder. I worked longer hours. I worked I did that. I contribute. So now, as opposed to being love your neighbor as yourself, you're over here saying, no, I earned that piñata because I fought the hardest for it. See, it's kind of sick, isn't it? And they're sitting there, and again, as you can see in the picture, they're just sitting up there watching like a spectator.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, look, when they were doing the the sculptor for the four presidents there. I
Mount
can't
Rushmore?
remember. Mount Rushmore. How many men died? And all they did was they pulled them off the freaking rocks and kept going.
Nah,
Hired somebody else to do it. There was nothing there. I mean, these guys were, it was just a ways to an end. It wasn't
again, dude, that was the same thing with the Wall of China. They're just like bury them where they fall.
but like I said, I
What
mean,
the hell?
life was definitely different back then.
It's
I
still to
mean,
the
the thing
extent
is
now
like, hey,
because
yeah,
didn't you used to bury people for free? I mean, they're dead, and they're like, we can monetize it. How? We tell them they had to put them in a casket, or we got to go right. And now you just monetize somebody's death.
but that was the thing was again, like you said, yeah, it did become monetized because I mean, how many people died at home and all they did was they went out in the backyard and they freaking put them in the backyard. That was the way it was.
Yeah,
But again, you turn around and okay, well, now we got to watch out and make sure that it's not going to contaminate the water and everything else, and we got to make sure that that their graves don't come popping up when there's a flood and so on and so forth. But I mean, the thing is I mean, this all changed because of different laws and
well,
everything else.
Dana, like, what do they call it when you're so? For instance, let's say you wanted to be buried next to your mother and father. You have to purchase a what?
Plot
A plot of land. Isn't a plot something that's devious that you're plotting to do?
or
Right? Like even the terminology is just going, wait a minute. Out of all the words you could have used, why couldn't you just say you want to be buried next to your mother? Then now you get plot of land. It's a plot. It's a game. It's a device, and they're literally telling you in the contract. It's same thing with the
yeah,
mortgage. It's a debt pledge. You understand what you're getting into. Yes, I'm getting into an economic whirlpool that I'll probably never be able to climb out of. Okay,
that's right.
as long as you know,
And
sign here. Put your mark.
yeah,
Your mark. So Leo Tolstoy, money is a new form of slavery and distinguishable from the old simply by the fact that it is impersonal, that there is no human relation between master and slave. Like I said, when you go home and you get sick, I don't really care what happens to you. I gotta call in for a sick day. Oh, this is your sixth time doing that. If you do it one more time, you're no longer able to work here. We're gonna fire you. But no, like I'm genuinely sick. I don't care. Gotta make profits. We don't want lazy people working for us. Right? So money does not pay for anything. Never has, never will. It is an economic axiom as old as the hills that goods and services can be paid for only with goods and services. Albert J. Nock. Right? And again, they tell us it does. It's like, okay, so now they have a little extra money, but we're going to tax them on what little extra money they have. And we're going to call them like what? Wage slaves? And you're going to buy crap that you don't really need with money they don't have. Credit, credit. The more they spend, the more they're in debt. The more they're in debt, the more they work. The more they work, the more they borrow. The more they borrow, the more they spend. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Banks, corporations, governments equals genius. Beast system. And again, is that capitalism or Marxism? Money. And it's controlling your daily social interactions with everybody else, right? Social and economic. It's controlling you. Slow down. Let poor wages mean poor work. Abolish the wage system. I remember one time I was at church, Dane. I don't know if I told you this story. I'd actually been working on this for a while because I honestly just thought it was a funny line, and I do a lot of dialogue because I like writing. And they were talking about doing a work day at the church, and the Lappins were there and somebody else, and I just was getting into my car, and I said this jokingly: "Work as in physical labor? Forget about it." To which I didn't receive laughter. I got like grimacing faces of like, really? And I was like, guys, it was a joke. And I'm having to have to perceive that the way you guys received said joke, you perceive me as lazy, which kind of hurt as I got in my car and drove off. Because it was like, I'm not opposed to work. I sat in the weeding beds for the flower bed, but I was picking out weeds for 4 hours and a half by myself in the hot, blistering sun. But nobody ever acknowledges that part, and instead they always want to observe, oh, you're not working as hard as everybody else. Well, you have a Martha complex, my dear Baptist, right? Because I rather would, right? It's like, well, I'm washing, cleaning, and cooking while Mary is sitting. Why can't Jesus see? She should be me. Well, it's like, well, Mary did right when she chose me, right? Go by the Donut Man lyrics of that song and interaction, because Mary was choosing the word of God. Mary was choosing hanging out with the company as opposed to, I have to make a meal first. The meal is important. Well, now you're making it into a production as opposed to, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart because I love feeding you guys. But you know what? That can wait. I want to hang out with you guys first. How many people think like that? And they don't. I see it all the time at churches. That's where I've gotten hurt the most, probably, outside of my family, is at the church. Is that normal? I'm asking for a friend.
Is that normal in
Yeah.
churches today? Hmm.
Yes. Which is retro Phariseeism, dude. And what you were asking earlier, they make things to purposely fail. Like like I was telling you about that story where the guy's like, I invented a tire that'll last for 20 years. And they're like, you doofus? What? 20-year tire? What's wrong with that? That sounds great. That's like really good quality product. They won't keep coming back and paying us for more. So it ends up being a thing where your economy is based on planned obsolescence.
Yes, it is.
Right? So so basically, for people who don't understand what that means, we intentionally make something that's going to die out, or you have to buy another updated phone of the 6G something whatever 1800. Why?
Yep. Then we're
Because
just going to put a battery in it just that dies in 5 years.
right, right. We don't do this for the soundest reason, but to make money.
Yes.
Industrial designer, 1958, Brooks Stevens. Which again, while I don't endorse Marxism, But most of the time when I see a Marxist author, a lot of times I find out they never read Peter. Excuse me, now you're making me yawn. They don't read Peter Kropotkin, who is advocating not the state, but the postmodern aspect was this is like, wait a minute, maybe there's a little bit of relevance to what they're saying now, right? It's not that I'm sympathetic to Marxism. It's more so like, what is their argument that he's making as an observation now of seeing a declining culture that's stuck in this mentality? And he was saying that pastiche, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct, versus parody. Jameson, Frederick Jameson, here on the book, argues that postmodern art replaces modernism, satirically parody of the pastiche, or whatever, a hollow, neutral mimicry of the past styles without any underlying critical impulse or moral judgment. It's a vanishing depth. He describes that postmodern culture as flat and superficial, fixated on surface aesthetics like a gleaming gloss towers of corporate architecture rather than exploring interior depth and psychological truth. What do you mean? Do you notice how all buildings are just rigidly, they're just there? Now, when you, again, like all Taco Bells look the same, all McDonald's look the same, Arby's, so on and so forth. They're created into little simplistic boxes. Why? Because it's made, as in we tear down whatever corporate signs are here, and somebody else will buy it out, and it's the same structure and model. All we did was change the franchise's logos. That's what he's talking about. It's just become very. Why? Because it's made to be disposable if necessary, and it's
It's
easy to
made to be
replace.
disposable, but it's also supposed to be recognizable. If it is a thing that they can actually that they can, oh, look over there by the you know the the golden arches, and there's the big boy and so on and so forth. Now if you've got commerce coming in, that's what you want, because
Mm,
they know that if you go to McDonald's in Hawaii, you're going to get the same thing that you're getting in New York.
right.
It's the same thing. And now that's a recognizable thing. Oh, I don't want to have local food or whatever. And now I can have something that's um,
So again, wouldn't you say that kind of breeds conformity? It's almost like a kid that says, "I don't
of
want to have
course,
asparagus," and it's like, okay, but that is the only thing that we have today until we go shopping tomorrow. You need to have asparagus with whatever. Well, I don't want
right,
that. So you're now
right,
spoiling us with what you're used to, as opposed to, you know what? Because I traveled, I think I should become accustomed to the local,
right.
right? So it's building in that again, this is kind of what a lot of Americans they don't travel, and when they do travel, they have their little American thing wherever it is in the world, like in Japan, Turkey. They have McDonald's over there as well. So it's a little
Right.
thing from home, and while yes, it might be nice in sentiment, at the same time, it makes you a little bit rigid and bigoted towards everybody else because you're not willing to experience and explore something that's different and try something that's new and force
Well,
yourself to break those cultural barriers.
that's right. But it
And again,
also comes,
your money is going to something that's comfort as opposed to, you know what? I know we both speak a different language, but I want to experience what it is you do, what you live.
yeah. Well, that's it's the same with you know Amazon. It's the same
Right,
thing. Hey,
right.
if I want it, I can get it right away. This is the death of little
Mom and pops.
markets and
Yeah.
mom and pop shows and places. That was the death throes right there.
Well, especially during
So,
C-19, and now it's making all of us look to big corporations to fill that alleged void. So, schizophrenia and fragmentation, Jameson draws on the psychoanalysis of the conceptual postmodern fragmentation as a linguistic schizophrenia, where an individual lives in a disjointed present and unable to connect with their personal experience to the broader historical and economic narrative. Meaning, how am I supposed to relate to other people, right? Um, Connect with their personal experience to the broader historical and economic. So it's like I can't even bother to study what it is, not like, oh, I didn't bother to read Marx. No, like I didn't bother to read Albert Parsons when he's talking about chattel slavery. I didn't bother to read about other people from the 1800s and what they thought on the economy. Now I'm just solely focused on my current scraping for existence like lifestyle, that I don't have time to focus on all that. So I become kind of this in schizophrenic state. You tracking?
Yeah.
And I'm so, again, individualized that are disjointed. While you're presently here, you're over here like so focused on the present that you don't bother to reflect on the past, which is what? Empathy, sympathy, trying to understand how other people lived. And this is why there might be a little bit on top of morals and ethics being justified with the MAGA movement. But it's kind of like, I used to look up to grandma. I used to ask grandpa about, this thing and that thing. Now it's become a bit of a dysfunction, right? There is such a super disconnect between millennial and boomer now, between technology and between all that,
Oh, yes, definitely.
that
Definitely.
now it's like, listen, I don't think we're going to be sustained because we have kind of created a social rift that is literally torn so severely that one side is literally thinking in archaic terms, right? All I know is the Red Scare. All I know is, Ronald Reagan economics and stuff like that. You have the other one that's over here going, the future is all technology. The future, like feminism, woo woo. So, like, it's gone to such an extent that it's literally imploding at its very core. And most people are not seeing that for what it is.
No,
Do you see what I'm
they're
saying?
not seeing. No, they're not seeing it. Like I said, I mean, the thing is, yeah, again, it's pretty bad when, the kids don't even know where a state comes from,
Or how
you
many
know? I
stars
mean,
are in their flag?
well, there's a lot of stuff that we can get into. And
I'll try to speed this up.
please,
Oh, wow. That hurts, buddy. Mister, I had to take 2 breaks. All right.
old bladder, old
Yeah.
bladder, what do you want?
Property is theft. Where the Lord once collected tribute from the peasant, corporations now collect rent, licensing fees, subscriptions, and interests from consumers. The costume has changed, but the relationship remains familiar. Feudal dues have become contracts, and usury now arrives dressed in the language of convenience and finance. I call it techno feudalism. I don't call it capitalism anymore. We need to distinguish what was going on before 2008 and what was going on after 2008, as you just were talking about. Amazon is not a market, it's a fiefdom. And it's fiefdom that's connected to other fiefdoms like Facebook through the cloud services of Amazon, which are much greater and bigger than Amazon.com. It's like a much more technological advanced form of feudalism. And is completely sustained by central bank money so that you have the combination of the king, the sovereign, and the state, the central bank and the feudal lords and the techno feudal lords. Yanis Varoufakis, I think. And he's not wrong, because when we saw in Trump's inauguration, he had all those little, tech people behind him. And tech, Teche, means snake. Technology, I would say snakeology. Beast system much. Internet, place for tomb or corpse, net to hold or restrain something with a device. Everybody's holding on to a little device in their hands. Then we emerge to a mammon, the demon king of wealth, power, and possession. Rank is a duke or a king. Element is earth, wealth, greed, and financial control. A crown being cloaked in gold and black, surrounded by coins, contracts, and fire. Sounds like a lovely individual. And wealth regarded as evil influence or false object of worship and devotion. It was taken by medieval writers to name the devil Mammon of covetousness and received in this sense by Milton from Paradise Lost. The Enchantments of Mammonism by Eugene McCarhar talks about this a little bit more in his book. But if people are kind of going, Brandon, I don't know where you're getting all this from. Mammonism and capitalism, a simple Google search will show Mammonism is the worship of money and material wealth, often seen as a modern day religion with capitalism as its primary vehicle. Because you don't get much with communism or whatever the other one they're talking about. So the other one is talking about self-interest, self-greed, whatever you can accumulate, right? Social Darwinism. I am the best. I am the right? And in actuality, you're nothing but two slaves fighting in a ring for your masters to watch. Competition much? And again, refugees didn't take away affordable housing. Rich landlords and greedy politicians did, which you and I both have experience with this. We were dealing with usurious landlords that are over here keep raising the rent to a point where it's like, dudes, what's the point? C19, you guys all raised your rents and then you never lowered it after that because you used it as an excuse of, well, you didn't pay me the rent, so now I'm just going to raise it for everybody and everybody's going to be evil just like you were because you didn't pay me back my rent. Okay, well, I'm not them. I'm an honest person. I will, like, right now it's become a point where they're raising it to such an elaborate rate. Some people's like, you want me to pay you $6,000 just to move in for first and last month's rent? And you want to charge me $1,500 just to get in? Are you crazy? But this is where we're at, people. Pierre
That's where
Joseph
we are.
Proudhon, he said that property is theft, and I tend to agree with him. George Carlin, property is theft. Nobody owns anything. When you die, it all stays here. Everybody keeps saying, George Carlin was here. Do you have so much material? You don't even pay attention to what he did leave behind for us. Right? People living paycheck to paycheck, landlords living month to month, banks and corporations living from bailout to bailout, the government. Government walks away at the end of the day, but they create a system where it's a caste system, and they don't even care about all these guys. They just want to walk away with it at the end of the day. The landlord will say, it's not me causing your rent increase, it's the market. And the market is all the same people that are thinking just like you. What can I gain from my fellow man? And what did Christ say? It is more blessed to give than to receive. You're charging me for space. You're charging me for land which God owns. Skip that one. Everyone needs a home. No, one needs a landlord. Me, I bought the property and it's mine now. Property tax. Well, yes, but actually, no. If you're still paying taxes, you're still paying a mortgage, you don't own your home. Don't buy that illusion anymore. Landlords don't create homes, they steal them. Let's be real here. Did you know Old Man Trump is a song with the lyrics written by an American folk singer and songwriter Woody Guthrie in 1954? The song describes the racist housing practices and discriminatory rental policies of his landlord, Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father. Hey, you are not busy for God. You're not too busy for God. You just love money more than God, and you are a slave to mammon. Repent. Currency is the war paint of the state. That's me. And then you got Randolph Bourne that said war is the health of the state, right? Always need to create another war in order to stimulate the economy. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. The very base, the empire of iron and clay, right? It's either 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons, a 666 hand moon sign that the occult's always holding up. It could also be AI, A equals 1, I equals 9, A plus I equals X, 10 toes, root of all evil, what holds up that statue, and what crushes that system, that beast system that we see from Babylon all the way down to the toes? Christ's return. So if the beast system, so you're telling me Christ left, now Boomerang Jesus has to come back because the beast system somehow resurrected itself? So you're telling me the beast system is co-equal with Christ with having the ability to resurrect itself? Or has this been going on for such a long cycle that silently it needs to be put down? What do you think, Dana?
I have no idea. I, at this point, buddy, I don't. I have no idea. The thing is it's never going to stop. It's not going to stop.
Until Christ returns. And that's all I'm asking
It's not
people.
gonna. It really is not going to stop until Christ comes. But the thing is again, I say again, is we need to have we need to start looking for our relationship with Him.
And how
that's
to better treat our neighbors, dude, is stop loving the money component and just start saying, you know what,
it.
screw it. I
It
think this is
is.
why the early ecclesia, I'll get rid of all my materialism, my possessions. Why? Because I truly just want to focus on him, and this stuff is distracting as heck.
It
Okay.
is. It is, and that's what I said. I don't. I'm sorry, but you know, getting this deep into stuff, I just don't. I'm just a layman. I just work and hopefully do my best to have a relationship with Christ. I
I
really
know,
do.
dude. This might be a little heavier existential presentation, but I'll try to speed it up. Um, so David Graeber is a guy I read. He wrote First 5,000 Years of Debt. Very good read. He says it's become fashionable lately to say that capitalism has entered a new phase in which it has become parasitical to forms of creative cooperation. This is nonsense. It has always been parasitical. Well, I consented. It's like, yes, I let you suck my blood as long as I welcome you in. Okay, fine. I will work for you as long as you promise me, right? It's like, well, why don't I just get rid of the middleman? All I want is a place to lay my head and to fill my belly. After that, I really don't care. So it's really become a I only work for you out of compulsion because I want to get along in the system. It's not fair to anybody. Currency creates caste systems, whether socialism or capitalism. The very concept of the working class seems oxymoronic. It's essentially a peasant saying, because I'm poor, I am programmed to be an indentured into servitude to a corporate lord until I eventually earn my own freedom. That being either the retirement carrot on a stick, walking over others up a corporate tired ladder, or sudden death. If your job requires hierarchy, conformity, or coercion, it's not a job, it's a money pit. Currency corrodes one's character and corrupts one's conscience. How many times do isn't that the plot of like 90% of movies? You should have taken the money, Tombs, or whatever. Like everybody wealth in its modern measure must be weighed against others to gauge its success. It flirts with avarice and shakes hands with envy. In many monetary based systems, it is a matter of the haves and have nots. Often the haves, for competition's sake, must ensure others are poorer, or at the very least, see to it that their rivals don't succeed. Again, David Graeber. We often hear about capitalism's contradictions, but I think the most tragic one is that we teach children pro social behaviors to share, to be kind, to cooperate, and to work together. We try to raise them to be decent human beings, but then, when they grow up, they are rewarded for out competing others, being cutthroat and ruthless in the workplace, and if they achieve wealth and power, they are often rewarded for many antisocial behaviors. I've seen that with a lot of people, dude. And it makes me sick because it says you used to be so pure and innocent. What happened to you? The workplace. We're obsessed with the idea that poor people might take more than they need, but we never question why the super rich never are satisfied with what they already have.
Yeah.
Billionaires don't contribute to society, they just take and take without giving anything back. Ironically, this is what the people claim the poor do. Right? And imagine the amount of propaganda for that, dude. What more can I take? I'm wearing rags. So again, listen, no one is vilifying rich people. They are villains. If you run a $1 billion company, give yourself millions of dollars in benefits, but pay your individual workers less than a living wage and give them a shitty insurance. What are you if not a villain? Villainage, like we just read earlier, as an actual
Mm.
wage system. It's so weird being raised by Christians and spending your entire childhood being told to care about others. Then one day, they're just like, you're not actually supposed to care about others, you stupid socialist. Like, never mind the politics. I just care about my fellow human being. Yeah, you commie. Okay. Billionaire. Okay, we already read that. Yeah, you can look up this stuff, folks, when you have a chance. Do not be weary yourselves to gain wealth. Cease from your consideration of it. When you set your eyes on it, it is gone. For wealth certainly makes itself wings like an eagle that flies toward the heavens. Proverbs 23, 4 through 5. No one should work ever. This is by Bob Black, The Abolition of Work. Work is a source of nearly all misery in the world. Almost all evil you'd care to name comes from working or from living in a world designed for work. And I mean oppressive. It doesn't mean just tending to the Garden of Eden like we were supposed to. In order to stop suffering, we have to stop working in an oppressive sense. That doesn't mean we don't have to stop doing things. It just doesn't mean that we are creating a new way of life based on play. In other words, a ludic revolution. By play, I also mean festivity, creativity, conviviality, commensality, and maybe even art. There is time to play than there is more time to play than child's play, as worthy as that is. I call for a collective adventure and generalized joy and freely interdependent exuberance. And why is this relevant? We have less holidays than the peasants did, dude. Medieval peasants worked only 150 days in a year, and the church believed it was important to keep them happy with frequent mandatory holidays. Now we have what, 8, 10?
Yeah.
This one I do want to touch on. So you know how feminists, and this is what Graeber's saying, long have pointed out that those at the bottom of an unequal social arrangement tend to think about and therefore care about those on top more than those on top think about or care about them. Oh, the hierarchy, the patriarchy. Women everywhere tend to think and know more about men's lives than men do about women, just as black people know more about white people's and employees about employers and the poor about the rich. So everybody's always, yeah, I know exactly what you're going to. No, you don't. You don't know me. You never experienced. You never walked a mile in my shoes. But this is where I saw a pattern, and I even came up with this before I saw this quote: is that capitalism is economic feminism. It focuses on monetary and materialistic independent self over communitarian principles and social well-being of everyone else around you. I'm a strong, independent woman. I am a strong, hard-working man. Okay. Your profit margins are your mascara. Your comparative out income, your flex. When you asked if what others think should have an equal chance and opportunity, you reply that if they're not lazy, then they too can become just like you. Easy breezy cover girl. While you sit there and think that it's money that produces value and prestige and a benefit to society, every empath and person with a humanitarian view is looking at you, wondering how you think it's completely natural and normal to be a single dog mom or a guy with a fancy motorcycle, sports car, or boat with no one to share your life with and achievements and failures. You follow what I'm tracking with that? Just go
Mm-hmm.
hard and work and get that muscles, bro. But, okay, I got muscles. I have no children. What's just going to last for forever? What's my legacy here? Like you were talking earlier about your father. What am I leaving behind? Am I trying to make sure that they're going to have a good childhood? Possibly I can pay for their education for college, varying on degrees of where each family is at. I'm going to make sure they have the best chance. And what's the other one focusing on? Just make money and make muscle. It's the inversion of feminism, but that's what capitalism tends to breed. It's all about you, bro. The lack of money is the root of all evil, Mark Twain. So again, we'll just wrap up with some verses and we're almost done. So 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all evil, kinds of evil, which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through many sorrows. And then Revelation 3:17, you say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. Dang. Yeah. I have everything. I've accumulated everything. I got my sports car, and I got my dog, and I got, gain the whole world, lose your own soul. You have James 2:6, but you have despised the poor Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Isaiah 10, 1 through 3. Woe to those that make unjust laws, to those who oppose oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. What will you do on the day of reckoning? Does that not kind of remind you of the parable where Christ was talking about the widow that went to this judge and he kept persisting? She kept persisting. It's like, oh my gosh, did anything to get this woman off my case? Why? Because you're so used to inverting it all of a sudden. Suddenly, when somebody's pleading with you to have actually uphold justice, what do? You're a bother to me. Why? Because I'm not making any money off of a widow. It's tracking. It's tracking. Um, one Oh, okay. One gives freely yet gains even more. Another withholds what is right, only to become poor. Proverbs 11:24. Luke 6:38. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. With the measure you use it, will be measured back to you. Weighing, measuring, right? Scales. In the spiritual sense. Um, Proverbs 18:11. A rich man's wealth is his fortified city. It is like a high wall in his imagination. It means nothing to God, whatever you've accumulated in your bank account. 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19. Charge them that are rich in this world that they may not be high-minded. All right. Nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who giveth us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, and that the rich be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, counterbabble, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life. And this one, the last slide. People think that poverty is an individual failure, social Darwinism, rather than an engineered system. It's created that way. Whether they realize it or not, doomed to failure, right? What statists think a stateless society would look like? What a stateless society actually would look like. Just coming together, back to the way of a tribe, somebody teaching, somebody growing, somebody cooking, right? Going back without the need of having to go through a coercive lens of the world. In closing, AI and iris. You pay money to the one eye. Monoe means one eye. Monopole, flock cameras watching you. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Zechariah 11:17. In Trump we trust, Mar-a-Lago goat, instead of in God. Now, if folks haven't watched other stuff before, I have cited how Trump has name etymology to Nimrod's son Tammuz, who is an equivalent of Baal, who is an equivalent to Mercury. He is known as the god of trade, Tammuz. And what fell on 9/11, Dana? The
Twin
world,
Towers.
the World Trade
Towers.
Centers. And what was written allegedly on the Emerald Tablets, they were known as the Twin Towers of the Emerald Tablets. All of that is to say, Genesis, Revelation, I think it's all coming to a head. Thank you, Dana, for your time. I apologize for your bladder. Um, what's your closing thoughts? Trying to
The
make you as bright
thing
as possible.
again, huh?
Trying to make you as bright as possible. There you go. At
Trying
least
to,
as long as you're close enough so we can see your face.
oh, I can't see me anymore. So, um,
Voice that counts.
what are my closing thoughts? My closing thoughts are I believe that we definitely need to keep God in our minds and our hearts. And I believe that we definitely need to look at each other and hopefully try to make each other better.
All right,
Just
I'll take it
I
from
just
there. Yeah,
I,
I just
I
find it
don't know what
sad,
else.
dude.
I don't know what else to tell you, my friend.
I just find it sad that most people, instead of arguing that statism is the problem or looking to the governments of man, they'd rather say it's Marxism, communism. They'd rather say it, capitalism, imperialism. And I'm over here going, both of them have hurt people. Both of them have killed people. Both of them have only sought to abuse their citizens, right? People in their care as they designed it. And for me, it's like, why can't you just deny that and accept Christ at the end of the day? Why do you have to tie yourself or funnel your vision through an economic prism where everybody you see is what can I gain from them? They're monetized. We got to stop monetizing our social interactions and we got to really start looking into mutual aid perceptions, right? I want to have a community. That's it at the end of the day. Money, we can get rid of it. I want to make sure that we're loving each other as Christ so loved us. We're loving our neighbors as ourselves. If that's a problem for you, you might have a little form of idolatry in your back pocket called a wallet. So, I would usually at this point let people know where they can find you and or your book, but I know you like living in anonymity, so we will keep it at that. Um, I'll tell everybody where they can find it, and then I'll let you go run off and get ready for work then tomorrow. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Um, thank everybody down below in the comments for Dana's time and sacrifice because this really does take a lot of time out of somebody's day. So, and it's actually a really heavy muscle I am straining on poor Dana that just wants to go to bed. So have some compassion, hit a like button, write a nice little note saying thank you, Dana, for your sacrifice. I'm sure he'll look on that for his YouTube just to see if anybody actually cared. And without any further ado, you can find this Mana Daily Podcast, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, and if you can and if you're able, on that Patreon and or Cash App. Those links are all down below where you can either copy and paste and find it because I know some people are having issues. PayPal, Venmo, PayPal is preferred. Patreon is per month if you guys want to support through that. And then again, you guys can find me on Instagram. And I think that pretty much covers it. So without any further ado, folks, we will catch you all on the next one.